First, for a quote today, you're in good hands with all next, but now.
Scott Jennings sees more sore losing from the left.
This is Tim Walz, Democrat vice presidential candidate last year.
The last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
I mean, he's literally sitting there saying, I wake up in the morning hoping to find news that the President of the United States had died.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is Carol Platt, lead owl for townhall.com. Last week, NBC News conducted what it described as rare interviews, and indeed they were. Rarely has any news organization allowed 12 federal judges to use it to bash the Supreme Court under the cloak of anonymity. These judges are unhappy with the Supreme Court for overturning lower court rulings involving the Trump administration with minimal explanation. Of course, there are so many of these cases because too many judges are behaving like activists rather than jurists. In fact, the Supreme Court was forced to issue a ruling limiting lower courts' ability to issue nationwide injunctions because so many judges were abusing them to stop President Trump's executive orders. Americans have confidence in the judiciary only if people believe it's impartial. Anonymous interviews and partisan complaining erode the public trust that's indispensable to the effective functioning of our third branch of government.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow brings warmth and plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm with a high of 85. Thursday stays warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here talking about the young man in custody and will soon be charged for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And how the media is trying to characterize what may have been the motivation or how it came to be that this 4.0 student in high school would, a few years removed from high school, do something as horrific as he allegedly did. And emphasizing sort of generally internet culture, talking about gaming culture online, trying to downplay as much as possible that he lived with a dude that was, quote unquote, transitioning to a woman. And according to family members, I'm quoting here, unnamed family member, but a family member that's been cited. I know the reason I had nothing to do with him is he is full of evil and hatred. The he is that's being referenced is the romantic partner of the assassin. Had nothing to do with him. He is full of evil and hatred. While this is extremely shocking, I was afraid he might hurt someone. A family member alleged, saying his belief was based on, quote, things he would say to family members, with the relative decline to be more specific. For at least 4 years, I haven't talked to him, the relative alleged of this romantic partner of the assassin. I did not want him around my personal family. He is not a healthy person. He is very angry with anyone who is supportive of conservative ideals and Christian values. Do you think that may have influenced the would-be assassin? In a phone interview, this is additional reporting, one of the assassin's high school friends, asked to remain anonymous, said the suspect was, quote, pretty left on everything and was, quote, the only member of his family that was really leftist. The rest of the family is very hard Republican. Yeah, they tried to do that, too, before that narrative was quickly dispelled, that this was a MAGA family. Well, not the person that's relevant in this discussion. And that's obvious. And so people like Larry Tribe, I mean, good grief. The famed Harvard law professor, Larry Tribe, had to delete the ridiculous posts that he, like so many, Kirk's apparent assassin seemed to have been ultra MAGA, exploding the GOP MAGA attempt to pin the blame for this tragedy on liberals. Oh, deleted. Yeah, we're supposed to rely on the deep thinkers, the experts like Larry Tribe when it comes to thinking about the law and how society should be ordered and so forth. Just remarkable. Looking for anything to hang on to, anything to misdirect people's attention from the truth as we know it so far here. Gaming, internet, MAGA. Right. Don't make the main thing, whatever you do. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Craig in Mount Greenwood.
Oh, hey, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. You clarified one thing because
are you on speakerphone? I can't really make you out, Craig.
Oh, hang on 1 second.
Yeah. No speakerphone.
How about now?
Yeah, better. Go ahead.
You've clarified one thing because I heard it both ways, that he was a girl being a boy or a boy being a girl, but boy being a girl. So, but the other thing is the deceit that's involved with the reporting, because there was a lot of influence coming from his partner and probably things that he followed, in the deep places he went that was anti-conservative and all that. So, and who knows with even schooling it, but when they report on it, they don't report about the influences that he would have with regard to that anti-conservative or anti-God and all that. And it's huge. It's what's happening to these kids today. These kids are being so pushed in what do you call it, the state-run media, the state-run schools. They do brainwash. It's brainwashing. They get these kids all messed up, and then out of like hundreds of kids, you're going to get one or two that's going to maybe act on their emotions out of this stuff. So I really blame a lot of this stuff on how blatant all of the anti-God and anti-Trump stuff is and everything, and how kids can be impressed by it.
Thanks for the call, Craig. Well, yeah, I mean, you're seeing so much of that, of course, in response to Charlie Kirk's death, all the vile comments, the hatred, the ignorance. There's also this New York Post, just in terms of trying to piece this together and is this sort of the sum total of it. This guy who's in custody, his romantic partner who is not. But is there anybody else? They're part of any larger group? I ask this because there's a report in the New York Post that there were suspicious people going in and out of his of his home 2 weeks before the assassination. The individuals had out-of-state plates, according to a neighbor. The Post observed Saturday that no one was at the $1,800 per month townhouse that he shared with his romantic partner. Neighbor claimed 2 weeks ago several people driving cars with out-of-state plates were seen going in and out. Did not give off a good vibe, the neighbor said. Now, could be nothing. But and I'm sure that if the Post is reporting it, that the FBI and local law enforcement are addressing it. But it's just something in the mix in terms of questions to ask. We'll talk to retired FBI Thomas Baker a little bit later in the show. To Maurice and Berwyn.
Yeah, Dan, I'll make it brief. That one of the things that keeps coming up about this radicalization that seems to have occurred to him in his one semester of college. And my broader point for many people has been, if your child has been in your home for 18 years and they can go off to college for 4 years, 2 years, one semester, and they are radicalized, what have you done with your kid for 18 years that strangers can meet them and change their mind somehow? What are parents doing with their kids? That all of a sudden some strangers can change their minds. I'll make one more point. Hey, man, if my parents can keep me and my sister in the ghetto and keep us on the straight and narrow, what are you guys doing out here? All of a sudden some strangers is changing their minds. That's maybe a reflection of some parenting issues going on here.
Perhaps.
It baffles me. All of a sudden, some maturing candidate stuff is happening in these colleges.
Well, thanks for the call, Maurice. I mean, I get it. I mean, the what did the parents and family members see and know, or what should they have seen and known? I mean, those are always fair questions in the wake of this. But I don't know. I don't know. Like, young people are certainly impressionable. People in general are impressionable. And they can be persuaded of all sorts of things that are not true. But there is, I mean, to go next level here with respect to an act of violence like this, it's one of those things that's a little bit difficult to know. I mean, we've gone through so many of these instances with school shooters and mass killers. Now somebody who commits a political assassination. And, how do you look at other people that fit a very similar profile who don't commit an act of violence? They may be vile people, but they don't commit an act of violence. And so what's the distinction that we need to focus in upon in terms of prevention? I don't know that anybody can put their finger on it, which is why we're always asking the same questions in the same directions in the wake of horrific violent acts, because there is something that is unknowable about what gets a person to such a break that they would do something as evil as this guy did. I don't pretend to know. You ask the questions, you pull together the evidence, you see proclivities. You raise the issue of, propensities within certain groups. And, address them. It's interesting. I mean, we'll talk to, again, Thomas Baker about this a little bit later, but we had this recurring problem of Islamist terrorist attacks, didn't we? And those have largely subsided, at least in America, haven't they? And we would talk about this in the same way. And we've talked about this after the Annunciation school shooting, too. It's like, when you see 6 or 7 of these instances in a short period of time, you start to say, well, maybe there's a problem within a particular segment of society that has some shared characteristics. That's not everybody. It's a small fraction. But a small fraction of a big number can be a big problem. That doesn't take too big of a fraction to do real damage. And so you have to look at it. And I think what you saw with respect to Islamist terrorists is the military overseas and federal, state, local law enforcement, as well as, I would say, some cultural leadership, including from the Muslim community domestically, that broke up networks, that eliminated masterminds, so speaking particularly of military now, but also domestic law enforcement, people that have gone to jail, people that were killed at the scene. And it's really subsided. So, I think there's probably it's sort of a multi-layered approach that is required here. But on the trans thing, celebrating it and demonizing people who take the radical position that a biological boy and a biological boy pretending to be a girl are not the same thing, that's definitely part of the problem, where cultural leadership is required. We've seen a little bit of a turning on that, but it's still very much a pitched battle. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, who was writing point on most of the topic, most of the conversations about this topic, I'm talking about the assassin, was on with Martha Raddatz as well on this week. Said the shooter is not cooperating, the assassin not cooperating, but those around him are, his family, clearly. And this was his call with Trump, he said.
President Trump was very grateful on multiple occasions during that very long conversation that we had. He thanked me for the press conference, for the words that I said then. He talked about Charlie. He had said publicly that he endorsed Charlie's stance on nonviolence and that we need more of that. And so I was very grateful for the president's call. To be honest, Martha, I don't do a lot of national media anymore, and it was the encouragement of the White House that I'm even on this program this morning.
And Stephen Miller, Trump's one of Trump's top domestic policy advisors, he was a little bit more pointed in terms of where this goes from the administration's perspective on Hannity on Friday night.
Where the left calls people enemies of the republic, calls them fascists, says they're Nazis, says they're evil, says they have to be removed, and then prints their addresses. What do you think they're trying to do? They are trying to inspire someone to murder them. That is their objective. That is their intent. And when you see online, Sean, as we've seen for the last few days, tape after tape after tape of federal workers, bureaucrats, staffers in the Pentagon, educators, professors, healthcare workers, nurses, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. And let me tell you something I'd not share with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his Creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us. And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate, you want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line. Susan in Cedar Lake, Indiana.
Hi, Dan. Gosh, I love Stephen Miller. So if you go on X and Instagram, there's this group called the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City. I guess they must have groups all over, but the University of Utah sponsored a lecture by the Armed Queers, and they say that trans people won't be silenced or disarmed. We are the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, a revolutionary LGBTQ organization dedicated to the defense and success of oppressed people's rights of self-determination, whatever that means. But they're investigating this, this group, the Armed Queers. I just wanted to let you know.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Jan in Hoffman Estates.
Yeah, good morning. The academia has been in brainwashing from, from preschool through high school with all of these leftist ways, and the teachers and parents will say, oh, yeah, well, they live with us, but they spend more time at school than they do at home. And everyone's so busy nowadays that things can slip through the cracks pretty quick. I don't know why anyone would send any child to college anymore unless you're going to be a doctor or a engineer or something, because otherwise you are just ruining their lives because they're coming out being stupider than when they went in. And I did hear that these trans people are armed and they are part of these gun clubs, that it wouldn't take much to inspire one of these people that's already off their rocker, let's say that way, to begin with, because they're delusional people. Anybody that thinks a man could be a woman or a woman could be a man, they're delusional. And I have lost friends that have those attitudes. I just cannot hang out with people that are delusional, and I don't know why they want to be part of that. I really don't know where they're coming from just normal people that just, I got a brother that says, hey, I think anybody can be anything that they want. What does that mean? I mean, what kind of a normal fuck is that?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jan. Well, I mean, just in terms of talking about this group, and since Susan and Cedar Lake brought it up, apparently Queer Resistance, which one of their flyers features, I guess, a queer resistor with a semi-automatic rifle. Agitate, educate, organize. Apparently they had a event in Salt Lake City like around the time, maybe a little bit before the event where Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley State College. By the way, the White House has requested another $58 million in security for top officials, including members of the executive and judicial branches. So there is heightened concern about civil terrorist groups and or individuals. Yeah. Phil in Maryville.
Warren, yeah, that caller hit it on the head. It's basically brainwashed people that work their way into positions of power, as in teachers, politicians, and they couldn't do this decades ago because society wouldn't go for it. Now that the parties become radical, I think it's normal for them to act like this. But, I mean, it's just, like I said, slowly but surely brainwashing kids. That's it.
Thanks for the call, Phil. Erica Kirk, the widow. So it feels like a weird thing to say, but it's the truth. Erica Kirk spoke for the first time, offered extended remarks from the studio where Charlie Kirk used to broadcast. And among other things, she had this message for the evildoers responsible for her husband's murder.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment. And one of Charlie's greatest talents was his ability, this phenomenal ability to choose great people to follow him. He could always find the ones who could handle any setback. And it's almost like he knew. He could see it in you. Even when you couldn't see it in yourself, he just knew.
Well, to Erica's point, the report from Turning Point USA, we have 18,000 new chapter requests since Erica spoke. We had 9,000 college chapters and 1,100 high school chapters prior to this. So they had, 9,000 on campus, 1,100 in high school. So, a little over 10,000 before Erica spoke over the weekend. 18,000 new requests after she spoke. Yeah, I think she may be onto something. Tim in Woodstock.
Hi, good morning, Dan. Yeah, the left just has nothing like Charlie. They don't have anybody who can make arguments and win the hearts of people, and I think they hated him for that, too. But I just kind of wanted to contrast. I did see one report over the weekend that I thought nicely showed on the screen the contrast between the response of the left when it's one of theirs that has some kind of an offense. And I went back to the George Floyd incident, and you just saw the fire, cars burning, the fires of buildings burning. And on the other side of the screen, there was candles burning, just prayer vigils, and students gathered for prayer. And somehow in leftist culture, when they don't get their way, or look at our side, in the gay marriage issue, the transing of minors, boys in locker rooms, massive illegal immigration. There may have been a few incidents, but largely there was nobody obviously shooting people or burning things over at looting.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Tim. We're up against the clock, but we'll pick this up at the 6 o'clock hour. For those who did attend any of the many Charlie Kirk vigils, including the one in the Northwest Burbs yesterday, do give us a call, get your feedback on that. We do want to accentuate some of the positive, too, because there's a lot of positive reactions that are being drowned out by all the negatives, so we want to accentuate the positive a little bit as well. We'll do that at 6:06. It is now 6 a.m., AM 560 WIND, Chicago.
A vigil for Charlie Kirk. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. At the Kennedy Center in Washington, and as Fox's Jill Nato reports, thousands were there.
There was music, prayers, and when House Speaker Mike Johnson hit the stage, there was chanting. The speaker spoke of Kirk's love of family and country and debate.
I mean, he could clean the clock of anybody in a debate. We all know it. But you know what he did? After those debates, he was always the first person to reach out a hand of friendship or to offer an arm around the shoulder of someone who he felt was lost.
Well, the suspected Kirk assassin, Tyler Robinson, remains jailed before a court date tomorrow. Fox's Garrett Tenney reports.
Officials here at the Utah County Jail tell us that Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin is being housed in a separate unit and is under special watch to make sure he doesn't hurt himself or others. And he is not cooperating with the investigation, but Utah Governor Spencer Cox says.
But all the people around him are cooperating, and I think that's very important.
Governor Cox also told ABC's This Week one of those cooperating is Robinson's roommate and romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Israel for his second day.
We are learning he spent 2 hours one-on-one with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Rubio is here at the direction of President Trump, of course, to signal ironclad support for Israel in the wake of last week's shocking airstrikes in Doha.
Fox's Jillian Turner in Tel Aviv. Rubio just said he'll urge Qatar, where that attack took place, to continue to play a constructive role trying to negotiate a ceasefire with Hamas to stop the war in Gaza. At the Emmys on CBS, the studio wins big. The Apple TV show set a record with 4 awards, including Outstanding Comedy, on top of 9 other Emmys last weekend. The studio's creator, Seth Rogen, also won Best Actor
tonight.
And he said that he was embarrassed how happy it makes him. The Pit won the Emmy for Outstanding Drama. Adolescents got Best Limited Series. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 65 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Former Illinois Governor Jim Edgar is dead at the age of 79. His family announced his passing yesterday following a battle with pancreatic cancer. Edgar served as governor from 1991 to 1999 and was the last Republican governor in Illinois to be elected to more than one term. He was honored in May when the Illinois State Library's reading room was renamed in his honor. More community members are remembering conservative activist and Chicago area native Charlie Kirk. Vigils were held yesterday in suburban Northbrook and Kirk's hometown of Arlington Heights. Kirk was shot and killed last Wednesday while speaking on stage at Utah Valley University. He was the co-founder of Turning Point USA, a conservative youth organization. Authorities are investigating after the bodies of a woman and her 2 young children were pulled from Lake Michigan on the south side. Police say the body of an infant was recovered from the water Saturday in the 5700 block of Lakeshore Drive near 57th Street Beach. Later that day, the bodies of a 6-year-old boy and a woman were located in the lake nearby South Side Beach. Authorities say the recoveries appear to be connected to a domestic dispute. And an investigation is underway after a dead rat and threatening note were left outside of the office of Chicago Alderman Andre Vasquez. Police say a note was found on the window of the alderman's office on the north side that read, "Move the illegals and the rats out of the 40th Ward. No one is in custody." News is a service of Fox Valley Coins, currently buying all gold and silver bars and coins, silver dollars, rare, date proof, and mint sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Gallagher points out the ultimate troll.
The behavior of Gavin Newsom is so wild, where he's got this shtick down now where he's trying to mimic Trump. And J.D. Vance was asked about it and said, I love his line, he's going to make him crazy. You talk about a real troll? Here's trolling. You can't mimic the king.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560, The Answer.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Micro. That's pound 250, Micro.
James Carey joined the United States Marine Corps after being inspired by his grandfather. James loved being a Marine, but his life would change forever during a training exercise. James lost consciousness and nearly drowned. The incident resulted in a brain injury that left James blind, unable to use his body, susceptible to memory loss, and more. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation built James a specially adapted smart home, enabling him to live more independently. Help heroes like James. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Game on, Chicago. It's Friday Night Delights at Big B Coffee. Every Friday, score big with $5 20-ounce specialty drinks. Hot, iced, or frozen favorites. Just $5. Perfect before the game, after work, or while cheering on your team. Don't miss out. Every Friday night at the brand new Big B Coffee, 309 West Lake Street at Lake and Wacker in the Loop. Big B Coffee, your Friday night victory drink.
If you or someone you love are getting high quotes for dental implants, visit almostfreeteeth.com today. With a medical PPO insurance plan, it's possible to save 90% off on average to be able to smile again. Check if you qualify now at almostfreeteeth.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 14 minutes. Outbound, 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 11 minutes. Outbound is about 9 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 14 minutes. Outbound, 15 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 22 minutes. Outbound is about 15 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 14 minutes. Outbound is about 10 minutes. This update is delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Visit quickdelivery.com when you need same-day delivery, local delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a quick check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow expect warmth and plenty of sunshine with a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm, reaching a high of 85. Thursday will remain warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Catarina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. As I mentioned before the news, anybody who attended Charlie Kirk's vigil here, particularly in the Northwest Burbs, give us a call if you want to share your perspective on how that went. Tim from Woodstock, the caller towards the end of last hour, made the point that can make as a matter of routine when it comes to something like this, which is the reaction from conservatives versus the reaction from the left. When there is something that that has occurred that is wrong, when one of the people they identify with as part of their tribe is maligned or harmed, the reaction, well, the George Floyd riots and the campus vigils, Antifa on the streets of Portland, and thoughtful young people reflecting on just what's going on in this country. And many of them turning to their faith and turning to prayer. Peggy Noonan writing the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. It's a good piece. As I said earlier, but we hadn't gotten to it yet, so I want to, but don't get to say that about Peggy Noonan columns very much these days, but her piece, Charlie Kirk's Assassination Feels Like a Hinge Point, is pretty good, as is this riff specifically. What a disaster all this is for the young. Kirk was a presence in the life of a whole generation of young conservatives, and he set a kind of template for how to discuss politics with good cheer and confidence, with sincerity and a marshaling of facts. He was literally willing to meet people where they are. Mainstream media has understandably presented him as a political person, but he was almost as much an evangelical one, a Christian, unembarrassed to talk about his faith's importance to him. All the young who followed him saw the horrifying video of the moment the bullet hit him. They will remember it all their lives. It will be part of their understanding of politics in America. They will ask, if you are killed for speaking the truth as you see it, are you really free? Is this a free country? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Yeah, I think that was well stated. And, you know, what Noonan is getting there, which is important, is that Kirk provided an example of living for something bigger than himself, as she said, almost as much an evangelical Christian person in terms of his brand or identity as he was a political person, even in the public's mind. In his mind, clearly he was a Christian first and foremost, but talking about in sort of public perception. So he provided this example of living for something bigger than himself, and he was killed for it. That's what people see. The impact is much bigger on the young, of course, because that was the mainstay in terms of his following. And civilization necessarily orients towards the young because that's how it survives. So it leaves them asking, what kind of country is this? And for those who understood it to be a free one, shaken in that belief. That's why his assassination is representative of so much more than just the loss of Charlie Kirk. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Annette in New Lenox.
Morning, Dan. I was at the vigil in Arlington Heights yesterday.
Okay.
And I got there an hour early, and there were already a lot of people there. The crowd was very respectful. Age range was wide. It was most encouraging that it was all led by young people who were very bold in talking about the gospel and as bold in standing up for the right to speak and have a civil debate. Very strong emphasis on being peaceful and doing all of it.
Thanks for the call, and I appreciate it. Well, and I do. We're going to talk at the bottom of the hour to a Moms for Liberty person from Lake County about some of this lunacy coming from the usual places, K through 12 school systems, the academy, and then, frankly, just a cross-section of professionals in America. So I just want to accentuate the positive a little bit, too, because there's a lot of people that are providing good examples in this moment during this time. Saw L.A. Dodgers pitcher with Charlie Kirk and cross inscribed on his hat over the weekend. And, even on the internet where most of the malevolence resides, it's a neutral communication channel. You're allowed to put thoughtful, considered, sensitive remarks online too. I don't know if everybody knows that. This young black kid knows it.
Wait, don't scroll. I wanted to come on here and talk about the death of someone I looked up to, Charlie Kirk. And I wanted to say that it is disrespectful how people are making Fortnite memes and talking bad about him like he was a horrible person. All he did was have boldness in his faith with Jesus Christ. Like, you guys are so mean to people just because they have beliefs. We, as Christians, we respect you for your beliefs, but we tell you what's wrong and what's right, righteously. But you do not need to be making fun of him because a tragedy has happened. That's all I want to come on here to say is it's blatantly rude and disrespectful to be talking about someone's death like he's just a piece of trash. He has a family, he has kids, he has a wife. You guys would want someone to respect you if you got shot, right? If you passed away, you would not want anyone to be talking bad about you. And I saw a video, I saw someone making fun of his wife too. Like, that's just horrible and rude. And today is a very special day to me because I hit 14,000 followers, but I don't even want to celebrate that because I just feel guilty that someone I looked up to passed away, and I'm still able to be on this earth. That's how grateful you have to be. So just stop making fun of him and just go. Like, just stop making fun of him. It's not even funny at all.
How about that? That young man has more class than the entirety of the leftist political power structure. Oh, boy. Scott in Frankfurt.
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, we went to the Jason Aldean concert this weekend out in Tinley Park with another couple, and he has lost a lot of hope with today's youth, with a lot of family issues that's going on. And he turned to me and said, I didn't believe he's never going to a country concert, and he couldn't believe the outcry and the response from the kids that were at the concert. They singing, knowing all the words, the chanting USA, the chanting Charlie. It was invigorating.
Thanks for the call, Scott. Appreciate that. Katie, Arlington Heights.
Hi, I was at the vigil yesterday. Thanks for taking the call, Dan. And there were thousands of people there, and the entire focus was on faith and family. And every person there, not only picking up and honoring the mantle that Charlie Kirk in his young age started, but that each person there has a role and a purpose, whether it's through Turning Point directly and the youth that are going to continue that movement, or in other ways that continue to promote all of that philosophy. But there were people there from babies to 90s, and it was not only peaceful, but the focus was also on praying for those who are responsible on the left for all this horror and this hate, and trying to move forward and trusting the fact that the light will always overcome the darkness. It was really beautiful.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. On This Week with Martha Raddatz, somewhat surprisingly, they actually decided over at ABC to talk to some young campus conservatives who were inspired by Kirk, undergraduates on college campus today, getting their reaction to his assassination. Pretty impressive group.
Charlie Kirk's influence with young conservatives was far-reaching, galvanizing supporters in person and online like few others. But he had plenty of critics who viewed him as using hateful and inflammatory language. In the wake of Kirk's death, I sat down with 3 politically active conservative college students to understand more about Kirk's impact and his complicated legacy.
Kieran Laffey, Katie Caldwell, and Philip Vaintraub are college students who Charlie Kirk inspired, and they are devastated by his loss.
I saw that horrific video of the assassination. It was sickening.
And just to hear that something terrible would happen to him was just honestly tragic.
I was in my history class, and for the first time in my college career, I actually stepped out, and my eyes were watery.
We sat down with the group just days after Kirk's murder.
Charlie Kirk was one of these towering figures of my youth. I'd watch these videos as a kid of him standing up, him being so articulate, but him being also so kind to everyone around him. And I said I wanted to emulate that.
And Katie, how about you? What drew you to Charlie Kirk?
So I definitely grew up in a more conservative household, more traditional. We were Christian. So I think that's why I kind of felt so strongly towards Charlie Kirk, because of the similarities between his family and mine. And I think that's kind of why it hurt more.
As a conservative on campus who's outspoken, who, like Charlie Kirk, likes to speak his mind and stand up for what I think is right, I have to tell you, Martha, I'm frightened, because people think he deserved to die because he just voiced his opinion.
Let's talk a little bit about that fear. I don't know if any of you heard Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, but he was pleading with your generation. Let me read it. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. This is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we find an off-ramp? And in that sense, Kieran, do you feel a responsibility to help bring both sides, all sides, together?
100%. I think unity is very imperative. And look, I want to see people come together. I want to see the First Amendment thrive. I want to see conversations, and I think most Americans do. And look, the reality is, I think it's going to be hard to come together. Martha, I just don't understand how a large population of this country can celebrate something like this.
Can you get past the...
And the net is at the end of that extended conversation, they basically said, like, we're not going to become the other side. We're not going to do that. I mean, as I want to say, we could be them. They cannot be us. We should guard that difference jealously. If we become as bad as them, Charlie Kirk died for nothing. That's what one of the kids said. By the way, one of the kids, that Kiernan kid, just to show you the point, I guess, that Cox was making. I mean, it does have some salience. The Kieran kid, he goes to George Washington University. This was a post from a George Washington University academic. There's the kid, thoughtful, grounded in the principles of a free society, restrained, articulate. Here's the Assistant Director of Academic Initiatives at George Washington University, Anthony Pahorlak. If nothing else, it is fair in a nation where children get massacred by gun violence on the regular. The people who advocate for continued gun ownership at the expense of those children are not immune from the consequences of their advocacy. No thoughts and no prayers. The immaturity that you're seeing on display. I mean, all of the other things, the ignorance, the hate. I mean, they're all tied together. But I mean, you're just so lowbrow, aren't you? We even have to have this discussion. Can somebody find me a politician who has? I mean, I'm sure there are some banning gun ownership altogether. But I mean, a politician we're supposed to take seriously, or any sort of real movement ever to ban bolt-action rifles, hunting rifles? I mean, especially now, even the most virulent anti-Second Amendment leftist will almost always stipulate to, well, of course, law-abiding people to hunt and so forth. And that's what this kid grew up in, a hunting family, in small-town Utah. But somehow this is about gun violence. Gun violence is a public health epidemic, and I mean, it's so dumb on so many levels. Come together around what? We need to come together around like a shared understanding of the world, shared knowledge. Now we can debate how society should be ordered, consistent with this shared understanding of the world. The people that that are being inventoried here for saying the most idiotic, vile things all over the place, and so many of them with advanced degrees and six-figure salaries, they don't know anything. They know nothing. They don't understand any of these issues. They have nothing but sort of political cant that they recite. There's no thinking going on. They're men and women without chests. So how are you supposed to come together around that? You have to contribute something in order for me to come together with you to have a discussion. You contribute nothing. You contribute no thoughts, no prayers. That's your contribution? What is that? So, I mean, like the pleasantries from Spencer Cox are all well and good. The thing I take solace in is that young black kid who posted that thoughtful admonition to people to behave. Hearing from, he can't even be a teenager. Would the adults in this country behave, basically? Show a little gosh darn respect for people? All these people prattle on about human dignity. They got to get, properly chastised by a pre-adolescent. And then these college kids who get it. Thinking about a free society, talking about speech and thought. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure exactly as what Peggy Noonan observed. What kind of country is this? That's what they're thinking. They should be thinking that. We should all be thinking that. JP, Northwest Indiana.
Hey, Dan, good morning. I actually live in Cedar Lake, just like your previous caller. My son is a senior in high school. He just had his senior night for soccer, 4-year varsity player, super proud of him. But the reason why I'm calling is the high school football team showed up for the senior night for soccer. And you're talking probably 100 just rowdy high school football players. And this was the night of Charlie Kirk's assassination. This was last Wednesday. So you're talking, the eve of September 11th. And it was one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. About halfway through the first half, these football players, like I said, about 100 of them, broke out and sang the entire first verse of Toby Keith's Courtesy of Red, White, and Blue, just out of nowhere. I wish I would have had the wherewithal to pull out my phone and film it, but I was just caught up in watching my son play, his teammates play, and these amazing kids sing this out of nowhere. And, I know there's been a lot of talk about what we're raising the future of our country to be and look like. I get it, but as a father of a young man and 2 young men that I'm trying to raise to be good men, I have a lot of hope that this next generation gets it, that they grow up to be good young people with good values. I don't think we're as in dire straits as a lot of people think we are. So, I just want to share with everybody, keep the faith, and God bless everybody.
Thanks for the call. No, I agree. And then you hear from kids like those college kids, you hear from that young man, and there's many more. I mean, even this was, great. It's for all the, again, trying to accentuate some of the positive, for all the negativity when Charlie Kirk's casket arrived back in Phoenix.
On the visual 26, South 1555 Phoenix Center, wind 2409, runway 26, good line. Clear line 26, Southwest 1555.
Welcome home, Charlie. You didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
So, there's again, it's a small percentage, but a small percentage of 350 million people is something that needs to be addressed. Steve in Mount Prospect.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I attended the Arlington Heights one and the Northbrook one. The Arlington Heights one was much bigger, larger crowd. But I want to share what I saw at Arlington Heights. At some point, one of the speakers was Charlie Kirk's friend. Was talking about how they came about, how they met, and how they worked together. And then he said this, ironically, I'm a liberal, Hispanic liberal, who voted for Bernie Sanders. And the crowd reaction was, we still love you. And I could only imagine a MAGA supporter at George Floyd's vigil, how would they be treated? That's all I want to say.
Thanks for the call, Steve. Rick and Joliet.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Called in last week and got a call from my brother who was concerned that perhaps I had lost faith in this country, if you remember the call. I talked about I want a divorce. I'm done. Mm-hmm. Well, you touched on this. You touched on this today. What my sentiment, where that's based. How do I own half a gun? How do we kill half an unborn child? How do we close half of a border? How do we come together? You tell me what coming together is. And historically, has evil ever come together with good, or did one have to defeat the other? That's all I got, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Well, there's no question that there is evil and there is good, and that never the two shall meet. I mean, I agree with that, although, people who do evil things can be transformed. They can turn away from evil. So, there's always the opportunity for people to change. But what I'm really talking about is just sort of what was mentioned before by, I think, JP. It's just like, there's a lot of people who believe in peaceful pluralism. Some are on the left. Some of them are enablers to all sorts of illiberalism, unfortunately. They're not very good at dot connecting. But I think you need to be a consistent standard bearer for peaceful pluralism. Look at the Unite the Kingdom rally in London over the weekend. They talked about maybe 2 or 3 million people at that. Elon Musk live interviewed by Tommy Robinson on a big screen. We'll maybe get to that a bit later. But I mean, that's the resting condition of the human spirit. You want to live free to think and speak your views on anything. So, I mean, those forces of illiberalism are not going to win long term, particularly not in this country, because what's in our DNA as Americans is to be a free people. And that is a majority view. Even if we lose an election to a socialist in Chicago or New York, it is still the majority view. Some people, as I said, not great at dot connecting. But fundamentally, I want to mention this too. Matt's Barbecue in downtown Lamont did a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Now people are trying to boycott the restaurant because he did a moment of silence for somebody who was assassinated. I mean, that's just, I get it. This is where we're at with, again, small percentage, very loud, very obnoxious, very intransigent. Matt's Barbecue, downtown Lamont, 308 Canal Street in Lamont. So, go patronize Matt's Barbecue in Lamont. I mean, these flag controversies, Karen Bass won't greenlight raising the flags. There's a fight in Aurora between did I see that, fire chief and the mayor over raising the flag and complying with Trump's order. Did Pritzker give the order? Because it really, I mean, Trump's order is for federal institutions. Pritzker's would be for state and local. Maybe somebody would query Pritzker on that. But I mean, this is how petty you want to be? Really? There's that element. Coming up at 6:36, we're going to have to address that element because there is much of it. And again, it's an opportunity for parents locally to hold people in charge of mediating institutions, civilization building institutions that are supposed to be, like our schools, accountable. Marcia McClary, the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, Lake County, joins us at 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 65 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The governor of Utah says Charlie Kirk's assassination suspect was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology.
Republican Spencer Cox told CNN State of the Union that's been learned through interviews involving Tyler Robinson's friends and family.
It is important, again, to understand how someone gets radicalized like this. And in this case, it happened as much as people wish it wasn't or don't want it to be this. These are the facts.
Cox added he can confirm the 22-year-old's live-in romantic partner is a male transitioning to become a female, and that person is cooperating with police. Robinson is set to be arraigned on state murder charges on Tuesday and also expected to be charged federally at some point. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
President Trump is expecting to see the Fed cut interest rates after months of complaining that the action was long overdue. The Federal Reserve indicated it will announce rate cuts this week following a series of poor job reports. Trump has been going after Fed Chair Jerome Powell, referring to him as too late Powell for his refusal to cut rates. Meanwhile, the Senate will vote whether to confirm Stephen Miron to the Federal Reserve today. The vote comes as the courts decide if Trump had the right to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
In one horrific act of violence, a voice of freedom has been lost. Charlie Kirk was the leader of a groundbreaking movement for patriotism in this country. And the country will sorely miss his guidance. We pray for Charlie's family as they battle through this sudden loss. Rest in peace to an American hero, Charlie Kirk.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
Whether you are old or young, no one likes to lose money. The market is at an all-time high. How much risk does your portfolio really have in it? Are you worried that you could lose your hard-earned money? Call TJ Stearns in Arlington Heights at 800-640-2256 for your free risk report. Call right now and we will include a full analysis of your portfolio. Don't wait until it's too late. Call TJ Stearns, a local and longtime sponsor on AM 560. Call 800-640-2256. Call now and tell him AM 560 sent you.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is a Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 16 minutes. Outbound, about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, about 15 minutes. Outbound is about 10 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 21 minutes. Outbound is 15 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 22 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. On the Dan Ryan, inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 16 minutes. Outbound is 10 minutes. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Kyle started Blindster in 2010 to make quality custom blinds affordable to everyone. Traditional window covering retailers are expensive. Blindster blinds are low and their blinds are guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now I check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow brings warmth and plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm with a high of 85. Thursday stays warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by HealthQuest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. You know, there's so many of these, but let's focus on the local ones. Talking about erstwhile educators saying the most intemperate things. I got a message by District 300. I guess there's a meeting in District 300 this morning to deal with District 300 Board President Nancy Zettler. She, among other things, posted, the first thing I thought when I heard this today, talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. The first thing I heard when I thought, the first thing I thought when I heard this today was, karma, it's a bitch. There's a meeting at the central office in Algonquin to demand Nancy Zettler's removal. And I guess, unsurprisingly, this isn't her first outburst along these lines of, you know, being classless and incendiary, ignorant. District 300, Algonquin. Wasn't that the district where the superintendent, I'm going from memory now, the superintendent whose name I've forgotten because they're so forgettable, during COVID, ridiculed the mom of a special needs kid over the mask wearing policy. And as she tried to explain how the mask prevents, I think it was her daughter, from being able to interact in class. Like it's, you know, she's got special needs that have to be addressed. And she was looking for some special dispensation accordingly. And she was given the back of the hand from the superintendent there. So I guess that is just, you know, the kind of comment you heard from the board president there. That's just sort of what you got in Algonquin. In McHenry County. McHenry, probably part of Kane. Wow. We really let the suburbs get away from us, haven't we, here in Illinois? There are many, many of these, unfortunately. There's another one in Buffalo Grove at Twin Groves Middle School. A teacher named Carolyn Hyman Pinta. Let's hear all about her from our guest, Marcia McClary, who is the chapter chair for Moms for Liberty in Lake County. Marcia, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. How you doing?
Good. So tell us about Caroline Hyman Pinta.
Sure. So Caroline has been someone that people have been sending us information for a while now on. And this was sort of the icing on the cake situation. She had posted, she has a group called BG Pride that's fairly large.
Of course she does.
BG, yeah, exactly. Buffalo Grove Pride. And, you know, in reference to Charlie Kirk's assassination, there was a thread. And, you know, she responds in the thread, someone, yes, like his, let's see, like the young men in the uniforms at the rally in the 30s. So referring to Charlie Kirk's rallies, you know, presuming like Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another thing she says in response to, someone says, I hear myself saying karma's a bitch. That was someone else says this. And then she responds, listen, the irony is thick, right? So she, you know, she's obviously not happy about this. But the other thing that's interesting is she is circulating a petition against District 214 honoring Charlie Kirk.
Oh, she's the one.
Yeah,
I saw that.
She didn't start it. She didn't start it, but she's circulating it. Yeah, and I'm, you know, very upset about that as well. That's his home high school, Wheeling High School. And, you know, they're circulating a petition to basically have District 214 not honor his death and not honor his legacy.
Yeah, so there's two petitions. There's a petition at Change.org to honor Charlie Kirk, and it's actually a pretty thoughtful description of the petition, and the petitioners, the people who created this petition. So it's Change.org petition to honor Charlie Kirk and foster inclusive education in High School District 214. To Democrats and progressives, true equity in education means protecting free speech for all viewpoints, just as we celebrate groups like the League of Women Voters. Denying space for diverse ideas silences the very democracy we all cherish. And so they just want to highlight Charlie Kirk as a notable alum, approve requests for Turning Point chapters within the district, and establish a district-wide day of honor for him. And the opposition says, it's pretty funny, to Turning Point USA is not an educationally neutral organization like the League of Women Voters. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
That is a hot one.
That's like funniest thing I've heard today.
Yeah. So anyway, those can be, so it's like you have to, yeah, right. So there's competing petitions and there's all this intemperate commentary, right, of the typical Nazi comparison, because that's really responsible from this teacher. And what is, I know, you sent this to us. I think her focus, this is her own words, this is her biography. Carolyn works for many Democrat causes, but by far honoring her bisexual teenage daughter by fighting for the rights of the LGBTQIA community is her biggest passion. And so if you, for example, believe that, I don't know, boys shouldn't be in the girls' bathroom at the middle school, then you're going to run afoul of Caroline Pinto and be called a Nazi.
Exactly. And our chapter and parents all over Chicago have run into efforts by her group to, keep things the way they are, the girls in the boys' locker rooms, girls in the male sports, all those policies are running rampant around the Chicago area schools.
Speaking of which, what's the status with the other middle school where the girls were pressured? You know the story.
Yeah, in Deerfield.
Yes.
So in March of this year, there was a male that went into the female locker rooms for gym and continued to do so. A complaint was filed, and that hasn't been resolved yet. But that individual, as my understanding, is still using the girls' locker room. The policies have not changed, and nothing has really happened other than, I will say that the family of Nicole Gorgas, so their daughter, is not changing for gym. Interestingly enough, that was the original compromise that the group of girls, these are 13-year-olds, had proposed to the school. They said, how about we just mitigate the situation and we just won't change for gym? Super mature decision, right? And then the school said, no, you need to change. But now they are not making Nicole's daughter change. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's interesting.
And so at this middle school, Twin Groves Middle School, where this Carolyn Pinto is a teacher and activist, I think in reverse order of importance. What's going on? What are the parents, school board members, anybody saying anything other than Moms for Liberty?
Sure. So she's a Spanish teacher, and that is, not a required subject in middle school in Illinois. So, anyone who wants to get their child to safety out of her class, it shouldn't really be too much of a problem because it's not required. That's the first thing. So I think people are sort of understanding that. The talk is just that a lot of the things that, she says her classroom is an affirming space. Mm-hmm. And given that she's just, there's so much here, and she is responsible, the sponsor for the Affirmation Club at school as well. That is an LGBTQ club. The parents are generally uncomfortable. We've been getting a lot of messages with their child being around this because we're talking, middle school kids, and you can't avoid the conversation, about sexuality and adult topics when we're talking about those kind of clubs and LGBTQ. It's just not appropriate in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And so But I mean, like, do you have any school board members? Is the superintendent saying anything, or are you guys just sort of being ignored and called names as they're wont to do?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I mean, this particular elevation just happened, with the Charlie Kirk situation. We haven't gone to her school district to talk about this yet. So the board meeting is tomorrow. It will be interesting to see what happens there.
Okay. So you want people to turn out for the board meeting and speak their mind, exercise their First Amendment right to address their elected officials and that sort of thing?
Yeah, especially if they're local, because, she's asking people to come to support her.
Of course.
And quite frankly, everything that, our chapter has put out is just her post. So we're just showing what she's saying. So there's, I don't know how you defend this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you sent some of the screenshots too with her posts and other people chiming in with similarly ignorant comments. So, you sort of have I assume this is mostly in communities. So you sort of have a problem up there in Buffalo Grove, don't you?
Yeah. And, the other thing she's saying is about the shooter. She says to someone else, as usual, shooter has turned out to be a white conservative, Trump-loving bigot who was a Nick Fuentes fan rather than a Kirk fan. Your people are shooting themselves, which is false.
Right.
So it's just,
Yeah. Right. The teachers. All right. So board meeting tomorrow, what is it, 7 o'clock?
Correct. Yeah. 7 o'clock.
And at the middle school?
No, let's see. It's at their district office, or just, let's see what the address is. I got it here. Ivy Hall campus, 1050 Ivy Hall Lane, Buffalo Grove, 7 o'clock. But I would arrive early because our experience is the parents get shut out if they come too close to the start time and they don't get to speak.
Yeah, of course. Of course they do. Who wants to hear from the parents? What do they have to do with this? Marcia McClary is the chapter mom, Moms for Liberty. Twin Groves Middle School is one of the flashpoints now, as you just heard us discussing. Marcia, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck tomorrow.
Absolutely. And ask people to sign the petition to honor Charlie Kirk at District 214.
Oh, yeah, right. The Charlie Kirk petition at change.org. Very good. Thanks, Marcia. She joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owed the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
We got another one here. I'm just trying to raise the profile as many as possible, and then it's going to be up to parents, people in the community, colleagues, I would think, too, at some of these schools who may want to, challenge their colleagues to be better. Jaden Waller, Assistant Superintendent of Schools K-8 in Oswego 308. Jaden Waller, Assistant Superintendent. I'm seeing a lot of black folks on here interjecting themselves into the death of a modern-day Klansman. And I have to say I'm confused and disappointed. Who are you trying to make comfortable? Because it's making me uncomfortable. Okay, Oswego, on notice. Let me tell you about a proud new sponsor of Chicago's Morning Answer, Access One IT Services and Support. Chicago business owners, listen up. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? An overseas help desk? Don't do that. If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Chicago's best, Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for more than 30 years from their headquarters in the West Loop. Whether it's voice over IP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is a Chicago-owned, and Chicago-run, and serves thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. They're rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups, manufacturers, and more. If you're in business, make sure your IT works well every day. Start a conversation about your business needs today. Call Access One at 1-800-804-8333 or visit them online at accessoneinc.com. That's Access One, O-N-E, spelled out, accessoneinc.com. Tell them Dan Proft at AM560 sent you when you visit.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
By the way, Pritzker did issue an order to lower flags to half staff through Sunday, but it's for all victims of political violence. You see what he did there? Of course he did. Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk about that to Unite the Kingdom rally across the pond with Stephen Bucci. It is now 7 o'clock, AM 560, WIND Chicago.
They have DNA evidence. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The day before suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination makes a court appearance, FBI Director Kash Patel just told Fox.
We have the DNA on the screwdriver that was found on the rooftop and the towel that the firearm was wrapped in.
And Patel says that matches Tyler Robinson, who remains jailed days after Kirk, a conservative activist, was murdered addressing a crowd at Utah Valley University. Patel also tells Fox the suspect did write a note before the shooting.
And we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying, the suspect wrote a note saying, I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it.
There have been vigils across the country, including a big one last night. Fox's Mark Meredith is at the White House.
The president will be heading out to Arizona over the weekend to attend the memorial service. And as you mentioned, last night here in Washington at the Kennedy Center, we saw this moving memorial for Charlie Kirk as top staffers also paid their respects.
I would not be in this position if not for the heroic efforts of Charlie Kirk, who turned the political tide among young people in this country.
That's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's in Israel. Just had talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and again calls for the need to disarm Hamas.
Every single hostage, both living and deceased, needs to be home immediately.
Rubio is also urging Qatar to continue helping negotiate a ceasefire in Gaza after last week's Israeli airstrike targeting Hamas in Qatar, angering that country's leaders. They honored TV's best shows last night at the Emmys on CBS, and The Studio won big. Outstanding comedy among the 13 awards the Apple show won last night and last weekend. Seth Rogen, the show's creator, won Best Actor.
If you watched our show, if you appreciated our show, if you voted for our show especially, thank you very much. I'm legitimately embarrassed by how happy this makes me.
The Emmy for Outstanding TV Drama went to The Pit. Adolescents got Best Limited Series. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. A man is charged with kidnapping and murdering a woman on the South Side. Police say Gregory Hudson was arrested after the victim was shot to death Thursday in the 6500 block of South Damon Avenue. He also faces charges of concealing a homicide, death, arson, and aggravated criminal sexual assault. An investigation is ongoing after a man was stabbed on a CTA Red Line train on the South Side. Police say that the victim got into an argument with another man Saturday night on a train in the 200 block of West 47th Street. The other man pulled out a sharp object and stabbed the victim multiple times. The victim was hospitalized in good condition. No one is in custody at this time. Illinois is launching an effort to protect vaccine access during the fall respiratory virus season. Governor Pritzker signed an executive order that establishes the statewide vaccine access initiative to ensure Illinoisans can get the vaccines they need. It also directs the head of the Illinois Department of Public Health to issue an order to allow eligible providers in pharmacies and other appropriate clinical settings to administer vaccines recommended by the IDPH. A 17-year-old boy is dead following a drive-by shooting over the weekend on the far South Side. Police say the victim was shot Saturday night on the sidewalk near 113th and South Carpenter Street by someone in a passing blue sedan. The victim was pronounced dead at the hospital. No arrests have been made. News, it's a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt warns that China is flexing.
Xi Jinping has capped a week of frenetic diplomacy by presiding over one of China's biggest military parades, projecting his nation's growing power in a show of solidarity with fellow strongman Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Everyone's got to pay attention to what China is doing and what China is saying, and it's very ominous.
The Hugh Hewitt Show, afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Attention investors with a 401k, IRA, or retirement account. The dollar has lost over 25% of its value in the past 5 years, and it's only going to get worse. Are you prepared for what's about to happen next? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold IRA company in America, and we are helping Americans prepare for the great de-dollarization by diversifying their portfolios with physical precious metals. We've partnered with former chief economist of the IMF, Kenneth Rogoff, to give away his latest book called Our Dollar, Your Problem, a must-read for investors. Call 800-741-GOLD, and we'll rush a free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem to your doorstep and include our special gold IRA investing kit, valued at $49. The dollar is losing value fast. Call 800-741-GOLD now to get your free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem and our free gold IRA investing kit. Supplies are limited. Consult your tax and financial professional before investing. Call 800-741-4653. That's 800-741-GOLD.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Micro. That's pound 250, Micro.
James Carey joined the United States Marine Corps after being inspired by his grandfather. James loved being a Marine, but his life would change forever during a training exercise. James lost consciousness and nearly drowned. The incident resulted in a brain injury that left James blind, unable to use his body, susceptible to memory loss, and more. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation built James a specially adapted smart home, enabling him to live more independently. Help heroes like James. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org.
Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. I'm one of the co-founders and developers of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. Laboratory studies have shown that certain nutraceuticals not only protect the heart, the kidney, and the brain, but also enhance their function. These nutraceuticals are found in Virago. Here's what a Virago user has to say.
Hi, my name is Dan, a retired Navy SEAL, and I have CHF, chronic heart failure, bad circulation, and many other problems with my health. And my VA doctor told me about a product called Virago, and I started taking it, and I was able to get out of the wheelchair. My legs are not swollen anymore. My feet aren't swelling anymore, and it's just really made a lot of difference, and I thank God for it. And I attribute my recovery to using Virago regularly.
Order online at myvirago.com and use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Maha and Virago, making America healthy again.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, it's about 20 minutes. Outbound, about 14 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, about 22 minutes. On the outbound side, about 16 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 39 minutes. Outbound, 23 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 34 minutes. Outbound, about 20 minutes. Traffic is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off of any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a quick check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow brings warmth and plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm with a high of 85. Thursday stays warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Apparently, millions of Brits are not buying what Keir Starmer was selling when he visited the White House a few months back and talked about his commitment to free speech. And Britain's always had free speech and always will, and something that he prides himself on and the country prides itself on. Well, a couple million people took to the streets yesterday in part in a reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination, but the larger issue, one that Charlie Kirk stood for, was the right to speak your mind. And as we have documented in disturbing fashion, there are speech and thought crimes that are routinely prosecuted in the UK, most notably recently, the Irish comedian arrested at the airport for some tweets, posts on X about trans. And Elon Musk made an appearance, remote, big screen, interviewed by Tommy Robinson, one of the organizers of this free speech rally in the UK. And this is what Musk had to say about the topic.
Well, I'm of primarily British heritage, British ancestry. I want Britain to be greater than it ever has been. I want Britain to remain Britain. I think there's something beautiful about being British. And what I see happening is a destruction of Britain. Initially a slow erosion, but a rapidly increasing erosion of Britain with massive uncontrolled migration, a failure by the government to protect innocent people, including children who are getting gang raped. It's unreal. The government has failed in its duty to protect its citizens, which is a fundamental duty of government. This has got to stop. There needs to be massive government reform in Britain. And the people need to be in charge, not some bureaucracy that doesn't care. Well, I believe you can't get to the truth of things without freedom of speech, without active debate. There's so many on the left that want to just crush debate and put people in prison just for talking, as you were, just for speaking their mind. The essence of democracy is it should be a government for the people, by the people. In fact, this is a government against the people and not for the people. This is why everyone is gathered here today, is something's got to be done. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, free speech and secure borders is a good start. For more on all this, Stephen Bucci joins us. Served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for being with us as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Important subjects you're touching on here.
Yeah, well, they're important across the pond in the UK, and they're important at home, too, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week, of course. What Western Europe has been telling us about their commitment to free societies seems to be running afoul of the viewpoint that a significant plurality, if not a majority, of their citizens think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? But look, the governments are so tied up in knots over, what we in the United States refer to as the woke culture, the whole trans thing, trying to normalize that to the point where you can't disagree with it. You can't point out things the government's done that don't make sense. They arrest and give higher sentences to people who question the prosecution of criminals over what they give the criminals, even when it's things like you mentioned, gang rapes. It's insanity, and they're making good their threat that some police officials made towards American citizens, as you see with that Irish comedian, that if you use X or one of the other social media platforms and say something that they don't like, if you show up in their country, they're going to arrest you for it. That is unacceptable. I cannot believe that our government in Washington right now will stand by and let that happen. But, we're not necessarily always going to have this particular government. So that deterrence protecting American citizens could easily evaporate if we had a government here that agreed with those guys in the UK.
Well, it's interesting, just to get your sense, you're a student of history. Jesse Kelly, who's a popular podcaster, was asked by a listener if the shooting of Charlie Kirk moves us closer to a right-wing dictator. And Jesse Kelly said yes. Half of my mail is from guys saying they're ready to hit the streets, and if my left-wing hate listeners think Trump is bad, he's an absolute puppy dog compared to what could be coming with a right-wing dictator. And so if you lefties want to find out how bad it'll be for all of us, then keep doing what you're doing. That's what Jesse Kelly said. First of all, I take issue with the description right-wing dictator because there is no such thing. That's an oxymoron. As soon as you give into totalitarianism, you're not a conservative, which is what the left uses. The left uses the term right-wing to describe conservatives. So you should stop using their language. Jesse Kelly should brush up his lingo. But that notwithstanding, you have people like Jesse Kelly, Rod Dreher, who I have great respect for, suggesting, we may be moving down the road to something like a Spanish Civil War, the fascists versus the communists.
I don't see that right now. One, because in our country, the communists are the fascists, not the other way around. Look, there's a lot of people here that are upset. But again, contrary to the narrative you hear from the left and from the mainstream press, is the right has not up to this point shown a propensity for lots of violence. I mean, we get upset, we get mad, we talk about it, we point out the possibility of it because, as they worry, we have a lot more guns than they do, and most of our people know how to use them, unlike the majority of people on the left. But the left are the ones who are doing the violence, not people on the conservative side. And so this fear that, suddenly conservatives are going to rise up and try and put in a dictator, I don't see that. There might be a few people all the way that are, the nutty far end of the right, which is not the majority of conservatives in America, that might be thinking that. These are the same kind of people who said, the military should just do a coup and, throw President Obama out. No, we shouldn't have. The military should not be involved that way in politics. But people have to stop breaking the law and then having their politicians, the left in this case, justify it for them. They need to be prosecuted when they break the law. I don't care whose side you're on, but the law is there to protect our constitutional rights, not impinge on it. And free speech, conversations, even with people you disagree with, is kind of the hallmark of our country, the American Republic's democracy. We got to do this right, and the violence needs to stop. But that's the left's part of it right now that they refuse to own up to, and it refused to take responsibility for.
What do you make of Pete Hegseth telling Pentagon staff to look for people within the Defense Department of War, within the Pentagon who have posted mocked Charlie Kirk's assassination or condoned it in some way? The report from NBC News says some people have already been relieved of their jobs because of posts on social media. Do you have any problem with that?
I do, if they do it in the context of their job. There was a few that I've seen that are people in uniform. That's against the rules. That's not a constitutional right thing. That's a regulation which has the force of law within the military, that you can't do that. You can't do politics in your uniform. It's against the regulations. And if you've done that, you need to be punished for it. Free speech part, we have free speech in our military, but you need to understand, if you have on your X account or your whatever the other social media accounts that you might have, if you have on there that you are, a colonel in the United States Army in this job in the Pentagon, you've just violated the rules. That's the same as doing it in your uniform. So if you want to talk crazy and do this stuff, you need to get yourself a different account that does not identify you as a government official. That's a different situation. And businesses have the right to do that too. If the business thinks you talking like a maniac saying, yay, Charlie Kirk is dead, hurts their business because you have on your account that you are associated with that business, that's That's their right to do that. People need to understand that. The left does it all the time to people. They're the ones who invented the cancel culture, and now that it's bouncing back on them, they're kind of upset about it. But people need to think before they hit send everywhere. That's just the way social media works.
Well, I mean, one of the things, though, too, is I would argue in support of it, whether it's the public sector or private sector, is, somebody makes some of the remarks that you've seen, that we've all seen, that person is like not emotionally stable. I don't want an emotionally unstable person working for me, particularly in a sensitive or not particularly sensitive position, like as a representative of my brand, my agency, my company, or just because I think that person is a threat to the workplace because of their instability.
Yeah, some of the medical people that have put on there that have made these comments and have lost their jobs over it. If I'm a patient and, I talk to my wife in the hospital room about my politics and the nurse hears it, and suddenly the nurse is not responding when I push the button to come in because she doesn't like my politics, that's a firing offense. Last time I checked, if you're there to do medical care for me, my politics should not be a factor in it at all. But these people are not thinking before they do these posts, and it's an indicator of prejudice. It's an indicator of bigotry. It's an indicator of a lot of things. If you think the people who disagree with you deserve to die, that's not a big confidence builder if that person is one of your medical practitioners.
Yeah, to say the least. On another note, I wanted to get your take on the Israeli strikes against Hamas leaders in Qatar. Last week, Bibi apparently had a tense call with Trump because Trump did not like that choice that Bibi made. What's your perspective on that decision, that strategic decision by Netanyahu, and sort of our relationship with Qatar? Do we have a full appreciation of who the Qataris, I mean, in terms of the heads of state, that family, that ruling family for the last 4 decades, do we have an appreciation for who they really are? Or are we being a bit Pollyannish about them?
No, I don't think we're being Pollyannish. Everybody knows who they are. They know where they stand. They know the things that they do that are beneficial for us. And we know a lot of the stuff that they do that we really disagree with. And look, Netanyahu was not surprised after he did that strike when President Trump was a little testy about it. He knew that was going to happen. President Trump, if this was something President Trump would have been totally in agreement with, it probably would have happened a long time ago. The fact that it's taken this long to go after those guys tells you that Netanyahu has calculated that in, and at this point, he and his advisors made the decision, we've got to strike now. We've waited too long, and we know the Americans are not going to like it, but it's our national interest, not American national interests at stake here. We'll have to work on fixing things afterwards, and I think that's what they're doing. I think the calculation will turn out to not have been a disastrous one. It'll cause some tension for a while, but I think President Trump will realize the Israelis are a lot better and more important ally than the Qataris.
Okay, and so you don't buy the sort of the handle that you're seeing in the international commentariat that Israel's winning the war but losing the world? You don't buy that?
No, not totally. The thing I saw this morning that the majority of the General Assembly in the UN is supporting the two-state solution, is condemning Israel. That's not like that's a big change.
No.
That's been like that forever. So, no, I don't think they're losing the world. look, the Palestinians and their press buddies and everything else have been winning the public affairs war around the world since this thing started. The fact that a country or a group of people can do a terrorist attack like they did on October 7th and have everybody feel sorry for them and tell the people they attacked, oh, not only should you not go after them, but you need to feed them and you need to meet all their needs. And if you don't, you're the bad guys. That's why the Israelis could give a rat's patoot about what most of the world's press say and what most of the world's governments say. They know they're fighting relatively alone, other than maybe with us and a few other supporters here and there. But if they don't, their country will be gone. So they're not going to just stand by and take it.
Speaking of Islamist terrorism and those who enable it, what happened to the radical Islamist attacks, terrorist attacks on American soil? Why did they subside after I guess, I don't know, the first when was the last time, first 10 years after 9/11? We had terrorist attacks, obviously significant, horrific terrorist attacks on this soil inspired by Islamist extremists. And we haven't had that for, it seems to me, the better part of the last decade. Why?
In my opinion, because we, one, totally ratcheted up our intel, our military. We went on other people's soil and took out terrorists when we found them there. Sometimes we asked for permission from that host nation. Most of the time we did not. We made the interest-based decision that it was worth the tension it was going to cause to take those people out to protect our interests and our people. Gee, sounds a lot like what Israel did with making the decision to bomb the Hamas leadership on Qatari soil.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks as always.
It's always my pleasure. Look forward to talking to you next week.
And Stephen joined us in the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
People ask us all the time, when's the best time to replace an old air conditioner? Simple. Before it breaks. Because when it does, you know it'll be the hottest day of the year, and suddenly you're scrambling like hundreds of others to get help during a heat wave. At Air Right Heating and Cooling, we've seen it all. We know there's never a good time to be without AC, especially in Chicagoland, where the humidity can make 80 degrees feel like 100. At Air Right, our experienced technicians don't just work fast, they'll do it right. Browse through our more than 1,500 five-star Google reviews to see what our loyal customers love most about us. If it's been a while since your system was inspected, don't wait for a heat wave before having it checked out. And right now, AM 560 listeners receive $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right, doing it right since 1959.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
AM 560, The Answer.
Text from one of our lefty listeners, 224. I wish he'd call in. I hate to enjoy his buffoonery by myself. I'd like everybody to hear it. Well, you'll hear it in part, but the back and forth would be more fun. Prof, so now everyone has to adopt a worshipful view of St. Charlie or lose their job, and homeless people should be euthanized? Is that where your cult is now? What? Nobody has to worship anybody, and no one said anything about euthanizing homeless people. But I mean, I understand the straw man argument, Stephen King. Just make stuff up. This is what you're doing. We're supposed to come together with that person at 224. And what kind of conversation is that going to be? Coming up at 7:37, we'll have the latest on the details involving the assassin, as he is expected to be charged later today or tomorrow. Thomas Baker, retired FBI special agent and legal attaché, author of The Fall of the FBI, joins us at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The governor of Utah says Charlie Kirk's assassination suspect was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology.
Republican Spencer Cox told CNN State of the Union that's been learned through interviews involving Tyler Robinson's friends and family.
It is important, again, to understand how someone gets radicalized like this. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it happened as much as people wish it wasn't or don't want it to be this. These are the facts.
Cox added he can confirm the 22-year-old's live-in romantic partner is a male transitioning to become a female, and that person is cooperating with police. Robinson is set to be arraigned on state murder charges on Tuesday and also expected to be charged federally at some point. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
President Trump says the White House ballroom might be a little bigger than originally planned.
In a telephone interview Saturday with NBC News, Trump said the ballroom will be about 40% bigger than estimates given in July by the White House. He went on to call it top of the line. Trump reiterated in the NBC News interview that the cost would be shouldered, at least in part, by donors or patriots, as he referred to them. I'm Rob Martier.
News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants with medical PPO insurance? It's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder thinks the media is being ridiculous.
There was a hashtag called Trump is Dead, and it was trending. The same people who covered up for Biden for years are concerned that the president, who held 3 consecutive press conferences recently in one day, takes a little bit of time off, and he's not being transparent about his health.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Time now for the Chicagoland Retirement Report. Danielle Martin here with financial advisor Scott Tucker, president of Scott Tucker Solutions. When we go through days or weeks of volatility in the markets, it's hard to know what to do. So, Scott, what can you tell us?
Danielle, I think when there's market volatility, it can freak some folks out. You can be fearful. You might make sudden decisions that may not be in your long-term benefit. A lot of folks race to look at what their 401k or their IRA balances. And we want to caution folks to kind of slow down a little bit. A lot of folks want to sell at the bottom and buy at the top. If you've already experienced some losses, let's just talk about it.
That's right. A lot of people still have major concerns about their retirement plan, but the good news is you and your team have created an offer for our listeners, Scott. So tell us more about this.
Right, Danielle. The offer today is a Retirement Decoded Toolkit. My staff at Scott Tucker Solutions put this together, and you can claim your Retirement Decoded Toolkit by texting the keyword book. You can call or text the keyword book to 224-496-3999 or go to retirementdecoded.com. So you can text the keyword book, B-O-O-K, to 224-496-3999 or call that number, 224-496-3999. Might be easier to remember. You can just go to retirementdecoded.com. At retirementdecoded.com, you just enter in some information and we'll get your copy of Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go, as well as the Retirement Decoded Toolkit. I think it could really help you with these times of market volatility.
That's right. If you have questions about your retirement, take advantage of this offer today. It's very simple. Call or text the word book to 224-496-3999. Again, that's the word book to 224-496-3999 or head to retirementdecoded.com to get your toolkit today.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Firm does not provide tax services.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
From the Team Hawkberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 18 minutes, outbound 16 minutes. From the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 27 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 48 minutes. Outbound's 27 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 46 minutes. Outbound is about 23 minutes. This report is sponsored by Staples. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off of your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 11/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But now a quick check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow, expect warmth and plenty of sunshine with a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm, reaching a high of 85. Thursday will remain warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. A programming note. Vice President J.D. Vance will host the Charlie Kirk Show from 11 to 1 p.m. today to honor his friend Charlie Kirk. VP Vance hosting Charlie Kirk Show on these airwaves 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you're fully apprised. Okay, so over the weekend, we got a lot more details about the alleged assassin who murdered Charlie Kirk last week at that college campus in Utah. The Utah Governor Spencer Cox was making the rounds on the Sunday talkies. We find that the shooter is not cooperating with authorities, but his family and apparently his romantic partner are cooperating with authorities. His romantic partner is a dude who is, quote unquote, transitioning to a woman. That's the story there, who, according to family members, hated conservatives and Christians. We also know, according to family members, that the assassin was the one member of the family who was left. There were disagreements about politics within the family. This has all been reported. But the focus from the D.C. press corps, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, has been on gaming culture and internet culture. This exchange, for example, between Kristen Welker and Spencer Cox on Meet the Press.
Governor, I want to ask you about something you said on Friday. You said, quote, there was a radicalization that happened in a fairly short amount of time. How was the suspect radicalized? How quickly did it happen?
Well, again, those are pieces of information that we're still gathering, trying to understand. We do know, and again, this has been well publicized, that this was a very normal young man, a very smart young man, 4.0 student, I think a 34 on the ACT, went to my alma mater, Utah State University, but was only there for a very short amount of time. I mean, dropped out after less than one semester, and it seemed to happen kind of after that, after he had moved back to the southern part of Utah. Clearly, there was a lot of gaming going on. Friends that have confirmed that there was kind of that deep, dark internet, the Reddit culture, and these other dark places of the internet where this person was going deep. And you saw that on the casings. I think I didn't have any idea what those inscriptions, many of those inscriptions even meant, but they are, certainly the memification that is happening in our society today.
Governor, I want to delve into some of the messaging that we have.
What about the trans partner? I mentioned this a couple times now, but I'll mention it again. I mean, we had Jim Fitzgerald on the show last week, criminal profiler, Unabomber case. And this is before the suspect was apprehended. So my guess, this is Jim Fitzgerald, my guess, probably trans or trans-related. You'll probably see a note or a manifesto. Pretty spot on. We've got inscriptions in bullet casings, not dissimilar to the Annunciation Church shooter in Minneapolis the other week. Spencer Cox, when he was on with Dana Bash, was asked about other writings that may have been posted to either this app Discord or in the gaming world that authorities have. He wouldn't confirm or deny that writings exist, and obviously he's not ready to release them. He's working off of what prosecutors suggest could be released into the public domain at this point. But he sort of indicated that it's likely some more of the assassin's writings will make their way into the charging documents forthcoming. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by Thomas Baker, retired FBI special agent and legal attaché author of The Fall of the FBI, How a Once Great Agency Became a Threat to Democracy. Thomas Baker, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you this morning.
What's your sense, based on what we know, of the likely motivation for this assassin?
Well, I think you touched on some of it. There's more to come. There's no doubt he was motivated by hate, and the hate's available to people like me who are slightly disturbed. It's available everywhere. And the constant theming, you pointed out one thing, this specific little corner of our society, the trans world, but also the generalized hate propagated now by the left, by some very prominent people, persistently calling people like Charlie Kirk, and particularly the President Trump, Nazis, fascists, et cetera, which most of them, you have to realize, probably don't believe this. People who are in the Senate and Congress, they certainly don't believe that Trump is Hitler. They know enough history to know there's no comparison. But they keep saying that. And out there in our general society, there are some disturbed young people, often young men, who are very disturbed. I think if you're into trans, you're dealing with a mental illness to begin with. And they're provoked by this. And I'm not the first person that says this, and everybody's saying it now, and Governor Cox has alluded to this in a very calm fashion. So I think that's definitely part of the underlying motivation here.
Yeah, it's you don't blame, like, the proximate cause is not calling Charlie Kirk a fascist. The proximate cause is this guy who assassinated him. But it doesn't mean that words don't matter, that they don't have impact. There's a difference between understanding the power that words have and the repetition of words have, in terms of persuasion, while still saying, okay, but we live in a free society and you're allowed to speak your mind as long as it doesn't cross that line into conduct. But and I raise that for this reason, because you had Comcast issue this statement, expressing their condolences, the tragic loss. Our hearts are heavy. There's no place for violence and hate in our society. The coverage, and then when Matt Dowd got fired last week after his intemperate comments in the immediate wake of Charlie Kirk's death, they called it their coverage. That coverage, Matt Dowd, was at odds with fostering civil dialogue and being willing to listen to points of view who have differing opinions. Except MSNBC, Comcast owns, has mentioned Trump and fascism 3,032 times in the last 3 years, 3.5 times more frequently than CNN, 4.5 times more frequently than Fox. So, on the one hand, it's all this, just like you're getting from the Dems, it's terrible that this violence occurred against a Nazi fascist person who's literally killing people. So they say in one breath, the thing that contradicts in the next breath.
Yes, there's a lot of insincerity on the part of these people. There's no question about it, and there's also a latent danger in here that they'll get back to their theme about, well, we need a federal terrorism law, and really they're talking about controlling speech. The fact is, when we're talking about Charlie Kirk, he was a world-class free speech advocate, and to do things that will control speech is not what we want to have happen. And also, factually, some of these comments, particularly regarding Charlie Kirk, that Charlie Kirk was spewing hate of some sort, are just not true. He was very temperate. He was very open-minded. He always welcomed debate and discussion.
The investigation. What's your assessment of how this was handled? There was initial 2 people brought into for questioning, 2 persons of interest. They were ultimately released. just the job the FBI did in this instance is from your perch?
Well, from what I've seen, and that's been criticized, and probably the criticism is right as far as it goes. But it's almost Holman Jenkins in the Washington Post this weekend pointed out it's almost laughable. The New York Times made a big headline criticizing Kash Patel specifically by name, that he had made this announcement about actually two people who had been questioned and released. And they made a big deal about this. But of the FBI sins, the New York Times has been an aider and abetter in the past. The Times is the one was involved in all these leaks on the part of Comey, leaking false information, ultimately, linking Donald Trump to Russia. Holman Jenkins did a search, apparently, just like the search you referenced earlier that you did, and he found that there were 61 stories in the New York Times from 2017 to 2019 pointing out Donald Trump's links to Russia, which, of course, all based on the phony Steele dossier. That's incredible. And they're picking on this one thing. I think in the heat of the moment in a breaking case, sometimes mistakes are made. I think the old standby check, and double check applies here. Kash Patel shouldn't have announced that someone was arrested when he wasn't actually the guy. But then again, they would have forgiven others had Ray or Comey said, we've arrested somebody, and then said an hour later, well, it turns out he's not the guy, we let him go. I don't think there'd be as much noise made about it.
Yeah, I mean, you would think after high-profile instances like the anthrax case, like Richard Jewell, that you would want to make sure before you go public with, who you think the person is. But yeah, I hear you. Just I wanted to go back to something else, though. We had you on after the near assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and talking about how the investigation into the attempted assassination attempt of President Reagan by John Hinckley was handled versus how the investigation of the attempted assassination of Trump in 2024 was handled. And, I still find the information we have about what went down in Butler, Pennsylvania, woefully incomplete, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And all of these questions, and someone who knows history like you do, and some of the history I lived, I do find it incomplete. I do find it there's a lot of questions left out there, and more information could be put out. But and there seems to be a lack of curiosity on the part of some corners in the press when you look how much has been written, for instance, about the Reagan assassination. One of the differences, the Reagan assassination was, and if you would bear with me for a minute, Dan, on this, the Reagan assassination by John Hinckley, the attempted assassination, was a lot like the assassination of RFK by Sirhan Sirhan, in that the individual was apprehended immediately at the scene, and that closed off a lot of avenues of investigation, and the focus was right there, and everybody knew it. The Martin Luther King assassination was a lot more like this assassination of Charlie Kirk. Someone shot at him from a long distance with a rifle, and the rifle was left behind as evidence. In the Martin Luther King case, they were able to retrieve one fingerprint from the rifle, and after an extensive search, they identified the shooter, James Earl Ray, because James Earl Ray was a criminal who had been previously arrested, so his fingerprints were on file. We didn't have that video in Utah, and everybody in the neighborhood and then the family of the guy encouraging this young man to give himself up, we might not have ever found him, because I doubt if he was arrested earlier. So his fingerprints on the gun, or even his DNA on the rifle, would not have led us directly to a specific subject. So there's similarities, but a lot of people don't know their history. They don't look back at these other incidents, Martin Luther King being one. The Kennedy assassination was another one, a shot from a long distance. In that happenstance, a police officer was killed when they confronting somebody there in Dallas that turned out to be the shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald. So each of these cases are a little bit different, but then again, they're a lot alike in terms of the mechanics of the investigation. I think what's happening today, though, you have this radicalization, that's one word the governor used, of the youth. You saw it in the trans person killing those innocent little children at the Annunciation Catholic School. You saw it a year or so earlier in the shooting at the Christian school in Tennessee. And now you see it, I think, clearly with this individual shooting Charlie Kirk. That's a new problem. That's a new phenomenon. And it really goes to something really terribly deep in our culture.
The Thomas Crook, well, I hate to say his name, the Butler, Pennsylvania. I mean, so, he wasn't apprehended at the scene, but he was dead at the scene. And so what questions do you still have about Butler that we should get answers to? Because, as this prosecution moves forward, we're going to see if we get all our questions answered about the Charlie Kirk's assassination, but we still have a lot of unanswered questions that I mentioned about the attempted assassination of Trump and the murder of Corey Comparatore. So what questions do you have remaining about that?
Well, there are two areas of concern, and I don't even think they overlap. The one area of concern, which is the biggest and the most fundamental, and you've touched on it, is our culture, the radicalization of some youth through the trans and the other issues online. That's one issue. That's the big issue, really, and it's the issue that's very hard to get a grip on. The other issue that we clearly saw in the Butler case, and I don't think it happened in Utah at all, but I could be wrong, in the Butler case clearly was some tactical problems, police procedural problems with law enforcement. And in Butler, Pennsylvania, the Secret Service has already taken some hits for it, very well deserved. There's a lack of communication between the state and locals and the federal, in this case, the Secret Service, which was shocking because those problems we thought had been put behind us years ago.
Yeah, but what about the shooter? Like, we have a very thin file on the shooter, at least in the public domain.
Okay, that's another problem. And what that does is clearly, and it raises suspicions in the public. What are they holding back from us? And we should know more about that individual.
Thomas Baker is a retired FBI special agent and legal attaché, author of The Fall of the FBI, How a Once Great Agency Became a Threat to Democracy. The Fall of the FBI is the book. Thomas Baker, retired FBI special agent. Thomas Baker, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And he joined us on the Turkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage. AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, we will plumb the depths of the legal mind of Richard Epstein, beginning with Tim Kaine's constitutional blasphemy. Good topic, considering talking about our First Amendment rights these days. That's Professor Richard Epstein at 8:08. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
There is forensic evidence against the suspected Charlie Kirk assassin.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
That screwdriver was found on the rooftop from where Kirk was shot and murdered last week, addressing a crowd at Utah Valley University. FBI Director Kash Patel also tells Fox the suspected gunman did write a note about taking Kirk out before the shooting, and
his family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years.
Tyler Robinson is due in court tomorrow.
Officials here at the Utah County Jail tell us that Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin is being held in a separate unit and is under special watch to make sure he doesn't hurt himself or others ahead of his first court appearance. He is not cooperating with the investigation, but Utah Governor Spencer Cox says other people close to the suspect are cooperating.
Fox's Garrett Tenney at the Utah County Jail. Ryan Ruth's back in federal court in Florida for the second week of his trial, charged in the second Trump assassination attempt, which was thwarted 1 year ago today while the president, then a candidate, was golfing at his course in West Palm Beach.
The trial of Ryan Ruth was expected to last 2 to 3 weeks, but he's defending himself and keeping his cross-examinations of prosecution witnesses short, so it may wrap up sooner. Today, prosecutors are expected to continue calling FBI witnesses. Ruth hasn't said if he'll testify.
That's Fox's Jill Nato. President Trump made news on Truth Social, posting a short time ago a deal's been reached regarding what he wrote as a certain company that young people in our country very much wanted to save, referring to TikTok ahead of a deadline for TikTok to cut ties with its Chinese parent company, or the social media app would be banned in the U.S. over security and Chinese surveillance concerns. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 68 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Former Illinois Governor Jim Edgar is dead at the age of 79. His family announced his passing yesterday following a battle with pancreatic cancer. Edgar served as governor from 1991 to 1999 and was the last Republican governor in Illinois to be elected to more than one term. He was honored in May when the Illinois State Library's reading room was renamed in his honor. More community members are remembering conservative activist and Chicago area native Charlie Kirk. Vigils were held yesterday in suburban Northbrook and Kirk's hometown of Arlington Heights. Kirk was shot and killed last Wednesday while speaking on stage at Utah Valley University. He was the co-founder of Turning Point USA, a conservative youth organization. Authorities are investigating after the bodies of a woman and her 2 young children were pulled from Lake Michigan on the south side. Police say the body of an infant was recovered from the water Saturday in the 5700 block of Lakeshore Drive near 57th Street Beach. Later that day, the bodies of a 6-year-old boy and a woman were located in the lake nearby South Side Beach. Authorities say the recoveries appear to be connected to a domestic dispute. And an investigation is underway after a dead rat and threatening note were left outside of the office of Chicago Alderman Andre Vasquez. Police say a note was found on the window of the alderman's office on the north side that read, "Move the illegals and the rats out of the 40th Ward. No one is in custody." News is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and The Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but now time for the Signature Bank Business Beat.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report. Global stock markets are higher, and U.S. stock futures are showing gains following the Nasdaq's record on Friday. Investors are anticipating the Fed meeting this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, which is expected to wrap up with a 0.25% interest rate cut. Hain Celestial shares are down 17%. The maker of Celestial seasonings, teas, Terra chips, and other food brands lost money in its recent quarter, though it is reporting progress in its turnaround plan. Alaska Air Group shares are losing ground. It's lowering expectations for the year. In the summer, it was dealing with higher fuel costs and the impact of an IT outage. It has increased costs from overtime, premium pay, and passenger compensation for Alaska Air Group. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda, invested in you.
In One horrific act of violence, a voice of freedom, has been lost. Charlie Kirk was the leader of a groundbreaking movement for patriotism in this country, and the country will sorely miss his guidance. We pray for Charlie's family as they battle through this sudden loss. Rest in peace to an American hero, Charlie Kirk.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you. Whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana, now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERcross.com.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
You need to be tuning into the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, the radio companion to the Amazon best-selling book, Success Blueprint, How to Build the Retirement You Deserve. Each week, Michael shares strategies designed to help reduce market risk through income-generating investments that can provide steady returns. Because if you can avoid a big loss, you don't need to take big risks. Catch the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, Saturday mornings at 10, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words Mike Rowe. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe.
James Carey joined the United States Marine Corps after being inspired by his grandfather. James loved being a Marine, but his life would change forever during a training exercise. James lost consciousness and nearly drowned. The incident resulted in a brain injury that left James blind, unable to use his body, susceptible to memory loss, and more. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation built James a specially adapted smart home, enabling him to live more independently. Help heroes like James. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 19 minutes. Outbound, 24 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 44 minutes. Outbound, about 17 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 53 minutes. Outbound, 31 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from Tri-State to the Lakeshore Drive, about 46 minutes, outbound 27 minutes. And on the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 35 minutes, outbound 11 minutes. Traffic is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow brings warmth and plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm with a high of 85. Thursday stays warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And programming note, Vice President J.D. Vance will host the Charlie Kirk Show from 11 to 1 today to honor his friend Charlie Kirk. Again, J.D. Vance hosting the Charlie Kirk Show starting at 11 a.m. today on these airwaves, so you want to tune in. Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia. Hey, boy. We really have to go this far back, apparently. We have members of the U.S. Senate that do not know the basics of the country's foundation. The basics, like grade school level stuff. And based on the reading and other academic scores we know from the recently released NAEP tests, well, probably we've got a generation or two of people that are in Tim Kaine's camp. That's what he said at a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing last week.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
It's just astounding. It really is. It's tough to be astounded these days. It's just remarkable how ignorant some of these politicians are. Just remarkable. Our laws don't come from our creator. Have you read the documents? They come from Tim Kaine. That's where our rights come from. Our rights come from Tim Kaine. So, whatever Tim Kaine and the politicians du jour grant us, that's what we get. Is that right? I mean, talk about a softball, but I'm going to tee it up for Richard Epstein anyway. Richard Epstein is the James Parker Hall Distinguished Service Professor Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, it's always nice to be there and to listen to some political segment I think is a bit out of his depth.
You think he's a bit out of his depth? Yeah. I mean, so like, I feel like embarrassed to have you address this, but go ahead and address it.
Well, look, I mean, this is one of the greatest problems that you always have to face. And let's go back to John Locke, and I think we'll give you some sense of why it is the Shia precedent is not the one that we have. Now, the model under Muslim is that there's a group of divine leaders who get the special message. You can't go back to the creator. Whatever they tell you goes, and then they can do it for whatever purpose. When Locke started to talk about this thing, the thing he noted is that the origin of government lay in private property. And the system as he understood it was that nature, God in his case, gave things to the people in common, and then they, in possession of their rights, formed a government to protect the rights that they had. And so what happens is the government was a creation of the people, and to the extent that these people were to put rights together, the function was to make sure that individuals flourish under the combined system that they had. And so from that, what you did is you got a combination of individual liberty and private property, because you would not want to surrender to the government your right to do whatever you want so you could become their political slave. And you don't want your property to be subject to the whim of the state that was on top of you. So the trick was, what do you surrender, to whom do you surrender, and how do they use it? And so the answer that we came up with is that you surrender some portion of your natural liberties and natural rights to the state, just enough money to allow them to protect the rights that you have. And then what you do is you institute institutions. Their job is not as an absolute rule, but as a fiduciary. And their responsibility is to figure out how it is that you could protect these rights with the least interference in the way in which they operate. And if you go back to John Locke, for example, he wrote in the 1680s, and just a couple of years before that, we passed in England the Statute of Frauds, which is a technical statute telling how it is that you manage to basically convey property from one person to another. And so essentially, under this view of the world, what you do is you have writing requirements so that fraud will not be used. You have situations where you record documents so there won't be double dealing and so forth. So the government has a very limited function to strengthen the private rights on the opposite side. When Jefferson had to deal with this, he was very equivocal about a God part. He said nature and nature's God in the Declaration of Independence. And you could sort of put your emphasis on whichever the two things you saw. In the Western tradition, it got more complicated because when you had other writers later on, they were less theocratic than Locke. But what they said, in effect, was when you try to organize things, even if there's no deity in front of it, it's trying to get the people to organize them in a way that allow them to flourish. And flourishing with respect to a religious person is evidence of God's order, and it's an end in itself with respect to those people who are not. But to start to say that the American tradition is like mad gets you into real trouble. So if you go back to the progressive era, there were many people who said exactly what he said, is that the rights come from the state. And what that ended up is you've got a very strong version of the New Deal, in which it turned out that your ability to use your labor, the ability to use your contract, would always be subject to the fact that the government had some overriding right under the police powers to give you whatever it wanted to give to you and to retain from you whatever it is. And so what happens is that kind of progressive philosophy can be benign if the social institutions are strong. But it turns out that it can also be extremely powerful to let the state do whatever it wants. So to take the most recent instance, the vaccine problem, the coercion that you're prepared to use. Generally speaking, in order to show that you're entitled to use coercion, what you have to do is to show some imminent threat by one person to the liberties of others. And that, of course, means that you could restrain people from attacking them in one way or another. When you get with disease, the question is that to be treated in the same way? And it turns out it is not. When you start dealing with something, self-protection is always allowed. Forcing people to take vaccines is very dangerous. And the recent studies have shown that these vaccines in many ways are much more dangerous than otherwise have thought with respect to autism and other kinds of conditions. So that's a kind of an issue in which self-protection by individual choice is far better than government coercion. So we start acting a little bit like the Shia.
Well, but fundamentally, it's just like everything on the left. It's a contradiction in terms. So Tim Kaine would suggest that your freedom from government is granted by the government. All of this is just, a speech is violence, silence is violence. The only thing that isn't violence is violence. I mean, these aphorisms of the left are just so mind-numbing, and frankly, it speaks to, why Charlie Kirk's work on college campuses was so needed and so popular. And I just wonder, Tim Kaine, I mean, this guy's been in the Senate for decades. Where you think our politics is going? I know everybody's talking about the tone and tenor of it in terms of civility, but just the intelligence quotient of it, and as somebody who's been on college campuses for basically your entire adult life, what you think the trajectory is for, looking at it longitudinally.
I'm very worried about the state of American legal education or general education. And part of it comes from the fatal imbalance in the faculty. I mean, if you take a major Ivy League school, 95 to 99% of its faculty members are not only Democrats, but left-wing Democrats who get to lead people. And conservative voices are shunned and pushed to one side. They're certainly not hired in any large number. What happens is you don't get a healthy debate. And you get people, since they're not facing any resistance, who take more and more dogmatic positions with respect to too many issues. And what's made this even worse is the polarization on the other side. That is one of the disservices that Donald Trump has done, and he's done many good things, but this bad thing is by having this highly incendiary rhetoric against other people who are not extremists on the other side, calling everything an invasion when it may not be an invasion. What it does is it gives the people on the left further reason to believe that there's an evil empire out there. And so this strength, we have a real crisis of legitimacy in the United States. So, for example, the Supreme Court may decree that you have to run a colorblind set of institutions. But if 98% of the people who run these institutions don't believe that, there's going to be constant evasion from that particular norm and otherwise greater friction. So my view about this is more different from most people, is I think you have to clean up the universities because they've gone so far out. But if you're starting on an ideal kind of a situation, I'm not in favor of imposing any rigid centralized command as to how these organizations should work. Now, the Hayekian insight that different institutions with different constituencies should run in different ways very much work. And so if you want to take a religious institution and say, well, they have to believe in the separation of church and state, that makes no sense. They should be able to impose kinds of requirements of loyalty and piety that they think appropriate for their place. If you have an engineering school that doesn't believe in any of that stuff, well, they can go in exactly the opposite direction and believe in a mechanistic universe in the way in which these things run.
Yes.
The trick is diversification doesn't mean that people of different colors all think the same thing and impose their beliefs on everybody else. It means decentralized control in which separate institutions go separate ways, and they do it. So to take the protests on campus, as McDonald pointed out, before Charlie Kirk came there, large numbers of people wrote signs that said, well, he doesn't belong on this campus. He's going to destroy our tranquility. We want you to cancel the event. For liberty to thrive, everybody has to be prepared to suck up their guts. And when they see something they don't like, decide that the only thing they can do is to leave the scene, but they can't cancel it for somebody else. So indignation becoming the source of coercion, which is the way it's played today, means that the madder you get, the more rights that you have against everybody else. And there is an old proposition in First Amendment law which needs to be remembered. Mere offense at what somebody else does gives you no warrant whatsoever to stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then everybody just has to get angry at everybody else, and then you could take the law in your own hands and kill the people you disagree with.
Well, I get the, obviously I get the legal and philosophical underpinnings.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, let's do it from Alan Bloom's Closing of the American Mind in 1987. In 1987. So what's happened over the last 40 years?
It's caused even more.
Yeah.
Is what has happened. And it's just hard to understand the level of self-righteousness that starts to take place on many of these kinds of issues. The usual answer to this disagreement was cancel speech, and now it's cancellation or murder, and you just can't allow that. You mentioned, of course, the trope about what counts as violence and nonviolence. There are very well-recognized definitions that harm is not something that you don't like. Harm is the threat of force or force in an immediate fashion to give some kind of response. And so what you now have to do to justify anything to Charlie Kirk is to say, well, he just came up there with a rifle, was about to shoot somebody. He had to shoot him in self-defense. This is all crazy. And when individual people take the law into their own hands and think that violence is a solution against the violence that they perceive, what happens is the word violence becomes trash. It's a very narrow definition. And so to put it in a slightly different way, putting aside monopoly for these purposes, which is not a real issue, when you start thinking about causing harm on another, what you have to think is only in terms of force and fraud, with the former being more important than the latter, because it's hard to protect against that, easier not to be deceived by taking care of yourself. And if you keep the narrow definitions as what allows you to move into somebody else, 90% of the stuff that people want to do in order to stop the behavior of other individuals not take place. And of course, the Shiites do exactly that. After all, what is an offense against Islam? If somebody puts an image up that they don't like, instead of sucking it up and saying, we disagree with that, they go out and they put this guy under a fatwa and then try to kill him. And they're doing exactly the same thing that some people in America are trying to do. And when you start to close down buildings, change names, put the ratios here, there, and the other place, what happens is a large number of respectable people are talking themselves to act the way in which the Taliban has acted with respect to its opponents. And this just cannot go on. I mean, I've certainly faced this in my own life. I'm not the world's most popular guy in terms of what I believe. I'm always willing to debate it. But it turns out many people on the other side just don't want to have those kinds of debates because they're overconfident in what they believe and undereducated. Yeah. And what happens is if you're in an echo chamber with people who agree with you, you get sloppy. As somebody said a long time ago, one of the nice things about being a libertarian is, when you go into any unmarked gathering and so forth, you're in a strong minority. So you better keep your arguments up strong, whereas people who have the crowd behind them could get lazy and sloppy.
Richard Epstein, James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor, Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thank you as always.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you. Take care, my friend.
Take care. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one? At Catholic Cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteryChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. I've always been a strong believer in precious metals investment, and I've always been fascinated with rare coin collecting. But owning the wrong coins that only make dealers a lot of money can be catastrophic for your investment portfolio. AmFed Coin and Bullion specializes in taking people out of non-performing coin portfolios and turning them into gold, silver, or platinum bullion. They tailor a portfolio based on your goals and not what they want to sell you. You'll never experience scare tactics, misleading hype, or high-pressure sales from owner Nick Grovich and his very knowledgeable staff. They will evaluate your portfolio, show you how your coins have performed, and take the time to educate you on the ugly industry practices so that you can make an informed decision. Smart people can make very bad investments when they're under pressure and lack the facts. Call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $257. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
It was a typical day. You were doing the usual, but then you met up with a friend at Weinstock Market and Lounge in Woodstock. Wow! The small-town charm and turn-of-the-century building set the tone for a classic outing. Their charcuterie pleased your palate like you never imagined. The Chicago beef sandwich made your taste buds dance. And the hand-selected wines from small vineyards around the world, so perfect. All paired with amazing live music. Weinstock Market and Lounge changes your day from ordinary to extraordinary.
Weinstock Market and Lounge, voted McHenry County's best wine shop and best of Fox 2 years in a row. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. Live music on weekends. Open mic nights on Tuesdays. Enjoy the fresh baked pizza and Chicago beef sandwiches. Wine favorites from Italy, New Zealand, France, and California. And a full menu of handcrafted cocktails. Plan a trip to Weinstock Market and Lounge on the square in downtown Woodstock. Mention AM 560 and receive 10% off any purchase.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pegol, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
AM 560, The Answer.
So, which was your favorite defensive stand by the Bears yesterday against the Lions? I say that not to rub it in, but just to set up Dave Swirsky's latest. We got to get this guy on the show.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Here we are again, my friends. The darkness descends once again. Thought it'd be different this year, but oh no. Dropped our first Uso down, all our hopes go. Why this decision to love a team that brings such pain? Are we insane? This pain just keeps repeating. We've got Ben Johnson, now let's go. We sure did think, but should've known. Some said there were signs back in training camp. Some days the offense was all over the map. And then this game was so bad, 52 points, it just ain't right. They showed no fight.
I think the leading indicator of a bad season is when Caleb Williams is sharing the same manicurist with Angel Reese. Coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to Juliana Freiman. She is a freelance writer who covers media and politics, has written extensively about the recent violence, political and otherwise. Juliana Freiman at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 68 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Plans are coming together for a large public memorial to remember conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
The memorial for Charlie Kirk will take place Sunday outside Phoenix in the NFL stadium that's home to the Arizona Cardinals. President Trump is expected to attend the service for the 31-year-old founder of the Turning Point political movement. A large congressional delegation is expected to join the president to mourn the outspoken activist who was shot and killed while speaking to students last week at Utah Valley University. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And House Speaker Mike Johnson is calling on lawmakers to tone down the rhetoric following the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Johnson told Fox News Sunday that his colleagues have an obligation to set a different tone in political conversations.
You can't call the other side fascists and enemies of the state and not understand that there are some deranged people in our society who will take that as cues to act and do crazy and dangerous things.
He also added that the shooting should not stop public discourse, but instead serve as an opportunity to move it forward and advance conversations. Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at a Turning Point event at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. I'm Lisa Carton.
News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants with medical PPO insurance? It's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
If you're getting divorced, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Marcy, 38, homemaker, no income, with 3 kids under 10, recently filed for divorce. Marcy's soon-to-be ex needed the equity out of their marital home to purchase a new home, so Marcy called Team Hochberg after being told by other lenders she couldn't refinance until the divorce was final. Wrong. I helped Marcy refinance with her parents co-signing because she didn't have a job and wasn't receiving child or spousal support. Let's review. Marcy needed to refinance her soon-to-be ex off the mortgage and give him half the home's equity to buy a home and was told it couldn't be done. And I helped Marcy refinance. If you're getting divorced and want mortgage advice from a lender who can empathize with your situation, give us a call now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity, and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Why don't we do one of those one-day bathroom remodels?
Well, because I don't want a generic bathroom that looks like it belongs at a campsite.
Fair. I'd love something that fits us. A bigger shower, safety grab bars, better lighting, heated floors.
Let's go with Forever Remodeling. There's no templates. Every design is unique and exactly what we want.
At Forever Remodeling, no 2 bathrooms are ever the same. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 21 minutes. Outbound, 23 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 46 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 58 minutes. Outbound is 41 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 40 minutes. Outbound is 25 minutes. And on the Dan Ryan, inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 31 minutes. Outbound is about 11 minutes. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Need new blinds? At Blindster.com, they offer guaranteed low prices, guaranteed satisfaction, free samples, and free shipping. At Blindster, they take the fear out of ordering custom blind shades and shutters so you can do it yourself and save big. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be mostly sunny, very warm and less humid with a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 62. Tomorrow expect warmth and plenty of sunshine with a high of 83. Wednesday will be mostly sunny and very warm, reaching a high of 85. Thursday will remain warm with intervals of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yesterday, Most of the NFL teams had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Not in Cincinnati, I understand. The Bengals may want to change that. Perhaps Joe Burrow should lead the way. There's been a person removed from the Joe Burrow Foundation board. Joe Burrow, of course, the quarterback for the Bengals, if you're not a football fan. The board member removed from the Joe Burrow Foundation is a local judge, Cincinnati municipal court judge named Ted Berry, who posted on social media in response to Charlie Kirk's death, "Rest in hatred and division, !" clown face. This is a judge. Not that I think this is beneath the many Cook County judges. Should be scrubbing their social media as we speak. He went on to say he spewed hate and division. How does he feel about gun violence and gun control in hell now? Municipal court judge. You think Lady Justice is blind in Ted Berry's court? As you might expect, there are calls for his resignation from the bench. Mm-hmm. The flip side of that is this very interesting piece by Will Ron in over at the Free Press. He invokes RFK's speech in Indianapolis on the occasion of Martin Luther King's assassination. And you remember RFK and King were not close. RFK authorized the illegal wiretaps on MLK. Not close. In Indianapolis, and he was warned not to go because of the violence that erupted. He said this, did Kennedy, as recounted in this piece over at the Free Press. For those of you who are black and tempted to be filled with hatred and distrust at the injustice of such an act against all white people, I can only say that I feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to go beyond these rather difficult times. What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion toward one another, and a feeling of justice toward those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or they be black. I shall ask you tonight to return home to say a prayer for the family of Martin Luther King, but more importantly, to say a prayer for our own country, which all of us love, a prayer for understanding and that compassion of which I spoke, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. Let's dedicate ourselves to that and say a prayer for our country and for our people. Interesting that there was not violence in Indianapolis. The city stayed pretty calm after RFK's words as compared to the violence in dozens and dozens of other cities that left dozens of people dead and thousands injured. Ron's point, or his commentary on RFK, that message, the point of his posting that excerpt from his remarks. You don't have to have loved Kirk or his politics to mourn his passing. Any political assassination is an attack on all of us, our democracy, our God-given right to choose between competing ideas. Kennedy understood that deeply and personally. He loved this country despite what it had taken from him. And he knew the long-suffering crowd of poor black Americans gathered to see him love this country too, regardless of the fact they had so little in common with them, that he had so little in common with them in their experiences. After Kirk's assassination, the central challenge facing the American people is the one Bobby put to us: to see past our differences, to love each other, to embrace our country and dedicate ourselves to improving it. Most importantly, we must reject violence, no matter what bitterness resides within our hearts, just as Kennedy did, just as his audience did. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And so far, we've had cooler heads prevailing, as we've seen from the vigils, including in Arlington Heights yesterday here, and the commentary from college kids mourning Charlie Kirk's passing. It's been encouraging, generally speaking. The comments online from some of these people, municipal court judges and teachers and professors, and a little less redeeming, I'd say. Juliana Freeman is a freelance writer who covers media and politics. She's been writing about this and other matters. Many of her pieces over at The Spectator, spectator.org. Juliana, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So you're a Gen Zer.
Yes.
You know, give us your perspective on this. You wrote a piece calling the assassination of Charlie Kirk, as many people have said, a turning point. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a breach in the rules of civil society. And what happened was a politically motivated shooter aimed for Charlie Kirk's throat, which was symbolic because it was a direct attack on the right to speak freely in America, which we have seen for years now, ever since the rise of Donald Trump, which has occurred where, during the Biden administration, we saw this rampant social media censorship, cracking down on the truth about January 6th, the 2020 election, COVID protection measures, which actually weren't as effective as the experts told us. And essentially what's going on right now is I think a lot of people in my generation, whether they're left or right, are recognizing the fact that violence and murder is not how we solve disputes in this country. The right to speak freely, the right to free expression does not include violence. It does not include destruction. And I think one of the main questions we're facing is whether it includes self-destruction. So Gen Z is one of the most self-harming generations in modern history. And the rates and awareness regarding self-injury, drug use, suicide, and gender experimentation are off the charts. They're surging. And these behaviors are often rebranded as empowerment and self-expression. You should have the freedom to destroy yourself, essentially, is the message that so much media and politicians are sending us. And there's been this two-faced narrative that's been pervasive that Gen Z has been faced with for so long. It's the narrative that you're fundamentally broken, telling young Black Americans that they're at a disadvantage compared to white Americans, or telling LGBT Americans or young girls who are uncomfortable in their bodies when they're going through puberty that they are broken and they can solve that hurt, that pain inside by just changing their physical body, changing their identity. Gen Z latches onto identity when they feel like they can't control anything else. And they do this through transgender identities, fictional characters, internet subcultures. And we've seen with the shooter, he was definitely a participant in some of these deeper, darker internet subcultures. And it immediately made me think of Hillary Clinton's favorite political playbook, Rules for Radicals. Rule 6, a good tactic is one your people enjoy. Now, I think about how social media algorithms spew back at us the content we consume. So it's a cycle. It's a feedback loop. And when this content harms us, and when we're hurting, when we're in pain, and the content is just reaffirming that pain, it builds up and we internalize it. And sometimes it turns to violence. Gen Z does not know how to express themselves, and they're afraid to express themselves. And instead of feeling as though we can change the system ourselves, we have this external locus of control where we feel like we have no power to affect our society. So instead, we turn it inwards and we just feel that pain and internalize it. Or as we saw with the assassin, you direct it at someone who galvanized and empowered Gen Z. The assassin, he only went to one semester at college, and then he ended up going to a trade school and working a blue-collar job. And maybe he felt as though Charlie Kirk represented someone who made something of himself, while this assassin, he was probably built up his whole life. He's so great. He's going to go to a great college. He got a scholarship, but then he was brought down from the pedestal, and who knows what was going through his mind that made him commit such an evil act. But Charlie Kirk was targeted because Charlie Kirk was empowering Gen Z to create a better future.
So what do you think happens on college campuses now? I mean, after Erica Kirk spoke this weekend, they reported, Turning Point USA reported they have 18,000 inquiries for chapters. Right now, they only have 10,000 chapters. So, I mean, that's how fast and furious the response in a positive way was. And so I take some solace from that. What about you?
I do as well. I mean, I think this is a battle between hope and fear. And right now, I think American society is feeling incredibly hopeful that we can effectuate actual change that can prevent these sorts of things from occurring again. I mean, I definitely think that as a nation, we can channel our grief into creating something that can make the next generations better than what we have already witnessed. I feel as though we can take that energy and we can put it in expanding Turning Point USA, spreading better messages for the next generation. And I think that's how we can heal our country.
Well, yeah, and I gotta, I'm sure you noticed the same thing, is like these Turning Point USA, members at various chapters or at universities around the country. I mean, they're behaving with much more impulse control and consideration than many of their professors. It's actually quite stark, and so that also gives much encouragement about what is to come. But I wonder if you think that you're going to see changes on college campuses. I was talking to a friend of mine's daughter's boyfriend, who has who runs the College Republican chapter on campus at Northwestern, where I went, and and by the way, both of his parents are professors, and we can't get conservative speakers on campus. I mean, when I was there, 100 years ago, it was a fight, but we brought conservative speakers to campus. I mean, they're just like we have no chance under the current regime and culture on campus to even bring a conservative speaker to campus. And this is at one of the supposed elite universities in the country. And I just wonder what you think happens, even if there's another 10, 12, 15,000 Turning Point chapters. You still have this situation in the academy.
Yeah, it's quite a terrible situation. I mean, right now, like, what conservative speaker would want to go to a college campus after this happened? I mean, I think about how Luigi Mangione gunned down the United Healthcare CEO, and it seems to have emboldened other horrible acts of murder since then, which I definitely think that this culture is just spiraling out of control right now. But one thing that does give me hope is the fact that all the celebrations online from young leftists, well, I think that I think that if we can overpower those horrible messages celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, if we as a society can change the cultural tides that have enabled these people to feel as though they can commit these acts and maybe be perceived as some sort of folk hero, taking down Charlie Kirk, who they actually truly believed was, someone who wasn't good. These people are indoctrinated from their education, from the media they consume, from everything. So I think that if we follow in Charlie Kirk's footsteps by taking it on at the college campus level and the social media level, I think that if we show them that we are not afraid to have conservative speakers on campus, to freely express ourselves on campus, if we don't give them the permission to silence us, then they can't.
Juliana Freeman is a freelance writer who covers media and politics. Check out her writings at spectator.org, like one I was just referencing. Juliana, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And she joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Unreadable, inconsistent part marking is more than a nuisance. It's a liability. When your part marks fade, your quality and credibility also fade. GT Schmidt helps manufacturers leave a permanent mark on their products. Laser, dot peen, scribe, and roll marking systems. Our machines engrave everything from serial numbers, date codes, certification marks, barcodes, 2D matrices, and logos on metal, plastic, anodized coatings, and more. GT Schmidt laser systems provide high speed, versatility, and durability with non-contact precision. Harsh environment? Rugged parts? GT Schmidt pin markers produce deep, reliable marks. Parts small or large, flat or round, we engineer systems to your specific application. GT Schmidt, the name for dependable part identification and traceability, setting the standards since 1895. Right now, save 10% off standard GeoMark Pro lasers and standard Styliner pin markers. Visit gtschmidt.com for the marking machine that's right for you. Made in the USA. GT Schmidt, your mark made to last.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you. Whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana, now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERcross.com. You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Updating the situation in Minnesota, some positive news. Little girl named Sophia Forchus was shot in the head at the Annunciation Catholic Church. She's been in critical condition, but her condition has improved. She is now in serious condition, so please keep your prayers focused on those kids at Annunciation Catholic School as well, those that were injured and recovering. Didn't know that Charlie Kirk was such an Oregon Ducks fan. Apparently Dan Lanning, the coach of Oregon's football team, didn't know either, not until Erica mentioned it in her remarks over the weekend. But Lanning had something to say about Charlie Kirk and the situation in America after they throttled Northwestern this weekend.
I recently found out Charlie Kirk was a Oregon fan, right? I didn't know that. I hurt for his wife, Erica, and their kids. That sort of evil should never exist in our country, and that's what it is. It's evil. But I remember having to explain that to my family, right? I remember sitting down with my kids and explaining what happened, and they're talking about people talking about it at school, and it's just sad, right? But it's just as sad, every day it seems like we deal with some sort of violence that's going on in our country, whether it's, school kids in Colorado or kids in Minnesota at churches. I mean, life matters. And I think we've lost sight of that. But I wish the world could learn a little bit of something from our locker room, because we got a bunch of people with differences, and what you got in there is a bunch of people that love there. And there's some people that'll be disappointed about how much I said about this, right? And there'll be some people that are disappointed that I didn't say enough, right? And I really don't care, right? What I do care about is if you disagree with me, if you hate me, if you don't like me, just know this: I love you. I absolutely love you, right? And life matters. And that's no way that Charlie should have experienced that. His family should experience that. There's no way that evil should exist in this world. And we have to continue to identify it and point it out and make sure that it's absolutely evil. There's no reason in the world that our kids, we should be worried about sending our kids to school. It's our most valuable commodity.
Coming up at 11 o'clock again, programming note, Vice President J.D. Vance is hosting the Charlie Kirk Show 11 to 1 today, to honor his friend Charlie Kirk. So you want to tune in on these airwaves to hear what the Vice President has to say. Hopefully he'll take some calls. Maybe some of our callers can get in and talk to JD this afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. It is now 9 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They have DNA evidence and more.